Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
I always do that. Hey guys.
Hi.
Today we're going to have a wonderful workshop about creative sequencing from the core by finding a way to access your deepest, most integral, energetic aspect. How can you create a practice and a sequence that is most efficient and effective for you and your students?
We're going to lead you through all sorts of new information that you weren't taught in your teacher training or anywhere else. So we're going to get you not only into the core of who you are, as Tyler said, which is ultimately what makes a magnetic, dynamic, and clear teacher, someone who is being magnetic, dynamic, and clear with themselves, but we'll also teach you the exact steps to take not only to sequence a pose deeper into your core muscle meridian, something that you absolutely need to know about in order to be the most effective teacher you can be, but also sequencing transitions from pose to pose, which is often neglected, but super, super important for aligning a pose, and then sequencing entire classes together, whether you're looking for at-home practice or you're sequencing for your students in a classroom.
This is a very vital and dynamic workshop. We're going to really talk about the qualities and the aspects of what is the format that we have, this newest anatomical nature and structure that is extremely groundbreaking and fabulous, that can transform your understanding of your whole practice, let alone the postures themselves. We're really going to go in detail about that. We're going to go also and begin to expand out into your own life and see how, when you are mindful and conscious in the way you sequence and the way you present your classes, how that can also impact and influence your own life and the way that you expand and create and sequence your life.
That's so important too. I mean, that's really powerful what he just said, because this is never about just sequencing your yoga class. Every message you'll be getting in here will be clearly translatable to the rest of your life to help you create success and clarity and move from moment to moment with the most intention and the best results. Can't wait for you to see this.
Yeah, let's get started.
All right. Thank you. So the sequencing from the core. Who here is a yoga teacher in the room? Raise them pretty big. Anybody not a yoga teacher? Raise your hand. Okay, hi, well, welcome. So this is more of a training workshop, just so you know, those of you who are not yoga teachers. This is it's a training workshop for how to create great sequencing and yoga classes, whether they are for yourself or for other people. But I think the deeper message is not just that. You can all use this, because the deeper message is, how do you structure yourself and find your own creativity and express yourself to the world in a way that is resonating most with you and honest and true and successful for you. So the other workshops this weekend will be more movement oriented. This one is not movement oriented. If we can get some movement in, we will, but the conversation is really the most important part of this, so please take it in what you can, and know that just sitting for 2.5 hours is an extreme workout. Not yet, if that's okay, unless it gets cold. So we will we'll be moving a lot more this weekend. We do have spots available still for tomorrow night. Yes. The rest are sold out. Tomorrow night
we can actually fit some more in the other ones, so if anyone isn't signed up for any of the others, we can fit a few more in. The space we've got, we can actually fit a couple more than what we've got.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so yeah, we opened up a couple more spaces. We're going to do New York style. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be all right. You're right. So I'm Sadie Nardini. I am the founder of Core Strength Vinyasa Yoga. It's a style of yoga. Really, it's a take on all yogas, any and all yoga styles, that helps to put the new functional holistic anatomy into our postures to help you move more freely, more strongly, with more results for the time you spend on your mat, whatever your style is. And I think my message for you is always core relationship and functionalizing and empowering that. That's the source from which it all springs.
I'm Tyler McCoy. I'm traveling with Sadie. I'm based in Austin, Texas, in the US, and I come mainly from a background. Shivananda is kind of the core of my practice, and then I also have a lot of experience with Anusara, Ashtanga, Universal style yoga, and and so on, kind of incorporated bits and pieces. And I've joined on with this, and we're kind of co-creating this new experience of what's possible for us as teachers, and also to incorporate and communicate with other teachers and students along the way. So I'm really excited to be a part of this experience.
It's great. So I bring Tyler to you as a way to amplify the benefits of what I could do by myself, which is inherently the best relationship. You know, to be able to bring you more. We had a conversation about this workshop, which I've taught before, and his infusion alchemized it, and I think made it rock even harder. So we're going to give you the benefit of that, those conversations that we have. So why don't you come on up and gather with us? Let's bring your stuff to write, bring your awesome iPad, whatever you need, and get a little closer. We are filming this, so maybe a little bit of width here otherwise. Feel free to not just have to be sitting in some kind of lotus position for the duration. We will take a break where you can move a little bit and do your thing. Right now, you know, if you feel like you need to stretch out, lie down, do whatever. Cash. And I shorten words a lot, so Australians should like that. It's pretty ferocious. You taught us some. Rhubards.
The room, yeah.
Oh, the rhubars on the trucks, like they call them in Coffs Harbour, they call them rhubars. We did go kangaroo hunting, and we were driving through a residential neighborhood in Coffs Harbour. And I guess the guy was a little lost. I thought we were searching for kangaroos in people's yards, and so I said, are we just supposed to look and see whose yard has a kangaroo in it? He's like, oh no, I know. We might. No, we have kangaroos in this preserve over here. So I was like, okay. We turn the corner and there's like a huge kangaroo in someone's yard. Like 3 of them, and doing their thing. So we get out in someone's yard and we're like, hi, like getting closer and closer. And I'm sure if anyone looked out their window, they'd just been like, silly American.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know they're dangerous, don't you?
Yeah, that's not normal.
I was like, hi, baby.
What in the yard?
In the yard, not everyone has that.
No, I assume that's probably the case.
Right.
Like in the city, you're not just waking up to the rumors. All right. So sequencing. I'm glad you're all here. What's appealing to you? What's interesting to you? What's your challenges around that? What do you know, what are you looking for? Let's start there. Why are you here?
Enlightenment.
No problem. You're already that, so I have nothing. My work here is done.
No, but okay, I'm just going to...
Yeah.
I started talking already, so... Sorry, I did a lot and I asked questions. No, I find that you've got your standard poses that you trick and answer that's going to be there every time, right? How do you, and I know that most students have got their head up their butts, they've got no idea really what's happening, they're not going to remember to the next class. But how do you keep feeling fresh, like as a teacher, when you do use the same poses again and again, because that's what's accessible for people on the greater whole.
Sure. Okay. That's a great question. I'm not going to answer it yet, but I'm just going to write it down. Like that. All right.
What else? What else is here?
Theming classes, kind of thing. Love going to classes that are themed, and love theming my own classes, but getting the inspiration to do that and to build on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Ways to describe getting into poses so that when you've got this particular alignment that you're focusing on, continuing to, while staying true to what you're trying to say, continuing to find different ways to say that so that different people can coherent, and maybe that gives them a deeper understanding and they're in the poems, or they think, oh, I just didn't think of doing that.
Sure.
Yeah. That's great.
How do you get people to grow and develop? Like in a class of 20 or 30 people, when you see them, you know, you get your regulars that come in every week, but because you've got such large volumes, how do you get them to continue to grow and go to the next level? So staying in a base sequence is good. There's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of energy that can be created just by doing what you can do. But there's a whole other layer that says, how do you continue to grow your students in? And you've got an hour and a half, bang, and you've got to go. So
Sure. Great. Lovely questions. Anything else?
No one noticed at all.
What are your frustrations as a teacher or a student? So students, just translate this back to yourself, right? What frustrates you about your own life? This is not just about yoga teaching, it's never about yoga teaching. We happen to be focusing on that language, but it's inherently about your relationship with yourself and others. How to be more inspired, how to be creative, how to be more clear, how to grow and transform both yourself and others when you're in the room. Where are we focusing? What's the deal? How are we being more clear in our descriptions? You know, more effective? How do we communicate ourselves? So please stay in translation, whoever you are in this room. And I'll try to point that out as we go as well. So for me, sequencing, effective, informative, transformative, life-changing, altering sequencing is both an art and a science. So the science would be the structure. The science would be those things that you put in place so that you're not wildly going all over the place. So that you are clear, so you're concise, so you're getting something accomplished in your classes. And then the art, of course, is more the creative energy you bring. How do you get inspired? How do you keep it fresh? How do you choose the expansion? How do you choose the fun stuff? Without just diminishing the power of what you're there to focus on. So there's always this interplay, and that is the main teaching of yoga. For me, one of them is sthira sukha. How do we dance between these polar opposites of sthira, which is structure or stability, and sukha, which is freedom, which is space and ease? And that's a great question, because too much structure in a yoga class makes it feel rigid and lifeless. And that's no fun. It almost feels like, as a student, the teacher is running me over and past me and doesn't see me, and that's not great, because they're not willing to break free from their preconceived idea of what needed to happen. They're not seeing who's in the room, they're not sensitive. So it feels like an insensitivity, and the relationship with your students will instantly diminish and disconnect. So if you are not there with them in some kind of flowing interplay, that your class sizes will reflect that, pretty much immediately. And then if you're too free-flowing, if you're too like whatever, it also feels disconnected. It feels like you're not focusing, that you don't have something to say. You're just wildly throwing things at people, and it feels unstable and untrustworthy. Right? Bless you. Could we maybe close the door? I'm getting a little chilled. You know what I mean? So it's this kind of balance. Where do you find yourself on that polarity? Some people are definitely more task mastery, more discipline-oriented teachers. Some people more creative flow teachers. But we can each stretch to the opposite and find a balance within that which we're strong at, so that we're not predominating only that. So I think one of the first steps is looking at yourself and saying, what do I tend towards? I mean, I would say you tend towards a free flow, like a flowing dancing thing, which then therefore means, because we took her beautiful class last night, so therefore means your stretch is probably to focus and theme and structure. Somebody else in here, anybody feel like your deal is like, I structure, I know what I'm teaching every time, I do that every time, right? So yours is like, how do I stretch and find my sukha? How do I find the ease and the creativity? How do I keep it fresh? Because now you're starting to feel lifeless within your own structure, so imagine your students. And I hope I can talk to you guys honestly today. I'm not diminishing you, we only want to lift you up. But it does need to be said straight so we can just get past all of that. And this is just my opinion of how things go. Of course, I don't know you as a total being personally, so it's never personal. So take what you can from it, you know.
On the same plane with that is the tendency to maybe you come up with a creative sequence. You're super stoked to have that, to share that creative sequence with your students. But if you're not temporally present, if you're not there in that moment, you're like, ooh, I can't wait to get them into this postures. And then you get there and it's a bunch of beginners. And you're like, here we go, even though you know it's beginners, and you push them through this practice and you're pushing them too hard or doing things that they're ready to do, etc. That is also being too rigid in itself, rather than being able to take whatever you have and always adapt it to the situation, in any situation. I know a lot of teachers, I think, who tend to, particularly in the beginning, overplay the structure element, like I have to make this perfect badass class. And if I don't do that perfect badass class, then they're not going to like me. But I think there's that value of finding in each moment the balance of the student and the sukha in each class as well.
And Tyler is one of the most creative yet structured teachers I've ever seen. So I feel like and I went to his classes for years before we decided to take the show on the road. And that's why I was attracted to it, because there is a stability and a groundedness, but also this kind of what's next. You don't know what's coming next, and there's this feeling of play and gentleness and adaptation, which I like. I also like that about your class last night. So room to move, but also you're the teacher, and so you're there to focus people in on a certain thing and help them go deeper.
I don't know whether this is going to be part of the workshop today, but I think just picking up on something that you just mentioned about when teachers first start teaching, when they're first trained and they go off to start teach, there's this idea in your head about what people ought to look like in certain postures, and it can be the teacher trainees in the room who particularly come and work with us in beginners classes. They're often really quite horrified by what they're saying. Oh my God, did I look like that when I first started yoga? Is that what down dog? How do you start? Where do you begin with a posture that looks completely incorrect, if that makes sense? And so I think what may be helpful potentially today is that how do you work with, if you do have these ideas about, well, I'd like to get to maybe this pinnacle pose or this pinnacle sequence as part of a practice, there has to be variations along the way, because even people who've been practicing for a really long time may not always be able to do that, posture that you have, as the apex of your class, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because perhaps it's, for whatever reason, maybe it's just not good for them today. As well as the people who are still on the journey and still building up to that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's something I see a lot of our teacher trainees struggling with.
I think I think that throws into the equation perhaps one of the most challenging and perhaps exciting, depending on your opinion, part of the equation, which is open level classes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's such a difference between teaching to set level classes, where you know exactly what they're going to be able to do more or less within a certain range, and open level where you have a free-for-all.
Yes.
And that is really, I think, the mastery. That is the mastery level. Yeah. They really are, because you have ultimate potential.
Yeah.
So then you have to eventually understand what are all the dynamics that I have to take into consideration, and then how can I interplay those in a way that will function for those students.
Yeah.
Any
tips you have around that, I think would be really appreciated.
Yeah, I do want to address that right away, lest I don't later, because I think it's so important. And if you are able to come to any of you to come to the other workshops, you're going to see how we both teach a wildly disparate group of people, both anatomical concepts, which a lot of people are like, oh, my beginners won't be able to handle that, but watch and see what happens. And also keep everyone in their growth in their growth and transformation process, whether they're a beginner who needs a more gentle kind of form of this, or whether we're moving towards advanced students. We got them all in one class. We show up, let's say here, and we don't know the students. We haven't been teaching students and teachers here like you have, and you know their process, and you know their energy and their flavor and this person's needs and stuff. So we come in needing to be able to speak to the whole. And you'll see it more, but also I think it's really important that you understand the anatomical reality of bodies in order to be able to teach these shapes from the inside, not just the outside. So for me, we get stuck in this outer body positioning. We see the end result of poses on magazines and in yoga books. This is Warrior 2. I mean, what do you think of? Do you think of Warrior 2 as this? Because that's how a lot of people start. That's the body we're speaking to, more or less. This is over dramatic, but sometimes not. So how are we building, from where and in what order? That is so important, because otherwise you're going to look at carnage, all over the place, and then be like, how do I fix, where do I start? Well, part of the structure of sequencing is not only sequencing poses together, but sequencing from the ground into a pose. From one pose to the next pose. This transitional awareness is really, really crucial for teachers.
I think it's so important that touching on that is that we start with a basic understanding of what we're working with, which is the human body, and what are the potential movements, what to look for, how to recognize what are various aspects, like for example misalignment versus tightness, or some other issues involved. All those kinds of things in the basic structure of the postures themselves. But what we have to offer is a whole other, I think, vitally important aspect of the transitions of postures, which which is not spoken to.
And this is how you're going to get people of whatever level into their best pose, because you got to move them. You can't come into the full expression that not everyone can do and then start tweaking alignment. It's backwards. You've got to build from the ground up into the pose, and along that spectrum, people will stop and work. So let's show you, can you instruct me into an outer body? You'll know what this is by the end of I probably will say weekend a lot, because we usually teach on the weekends, but now I do understand it's Tuesday and Wednesday. Just translate me back into the weekday. So there are a couple major ways that we can teach. One is from the outer body anatomy that most of us learned about from until now, and then the inner body, deep core muscle meridian, holistic inner body anatomy, which we have just discovered, which a lot of yogis have been kind of flirting with for a long time. Massage therapists know about it. Doctors often know about it, but not yogis. So this is the difference, and here's why. The first one will be very inaccessible to beginners, and then the second one will be accessible to every single person in your class, unless they are totally injured and can't move.
So you want to just talk you through a flow?
How about just from down dog to, let's vinyasa into warrior 2. How about that?
Sure. Okay, so
outer body.
Watch for the difference between what is heard to outer body, what is, as a beginner, versus the other one. So down dog, heels to the floor. Inhale your right leg up behind you. Exhale, swing that foot between your hands. Good. Gravitate the flow forward. Warrior 1, do you want?
Let's do warrior 2.
Warrior 2. Drop your back foot to the floor. Inhale, swivel open, warrior 2. Swing arms out wide, parallel to the floor. Back leg straight, tuck your tailbone, shoulders back, heart lifted, arms long. That's it. There you go. Shoulders down, heart up. Good. Lengthen, head over pelvis. Take a deep breath.
Oh shit, this is no shit moment. Oh, what's happening here? Because if you put this back, this goes forward, and then you're trying to lift from here.
And then as a teacher, I'm like this, trying to, hold on, this one is straight. No, but
oh, screw it, down dog. I'm overdoing it in a way, but also not. Like, I'm overdoing it for this is what your outer body is trying to do. You came up into that pose in an outer body way, which you've just got to come more because we have to explain this to you later. And this is somewhat of an explanation, but there's so much more. But anyway, so we have these muscle meridians all over the body. They interconnect, but they're front body ones, back body ones, side spiral ones, and inner body core ones. We, in the way he just instructed me, came up from the back body, and the back body being the shoulders and the lumbar spine, and the pelvis has to shove forward, and the thigh bones have to shove forward, and the pelvis is forward here, so the pinky toe is going to be up back there. And now as teachers, we'll do things like tuck the tailbone on a really compressed, weird hip joint situation. Okay, then we'll try to slam the pinky, we'll come over and step on the pinky toe. When the leg is collapsing and it's trying to save the knee, that's why the foot is up. It's actually healthy, and this is healthier to have the foot like this. So we'll come put the foot down, and the knee's all tweaky, and the thigh bone is compressive. The hips are forward, this is compressed out. This is an overstretch here of connective tissue. And we're hanging in it, so then we have a short low back spine, shoulders are up, then we'll go tuck, oh crank, okay, now put the pinky toe down, oh poor knee, and then this is trying to hold you up because the inner body and core is not activated, so then we'll put the shoulders down, which is what's holding it up, and so we're heavier and more forward, and then
Okay. So come back to down dog. Alright, so I'm going to take you through on the other side. We're going to do this side.
Wait, do a vinyasa from the outer body meridian.
Inhale, shift forward to plank, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, knees down, chaturanga, come down, hover off the floor. Inhale, lift your heart up, forward, shoulders back, gaze up, exhale, lift back to down dog. Good.
Yeah, I know. I'm being mindful, actually. That's sad.
Let's do left side now.
Yeah.
Okay, inhale, left leg up to the sky. Fill your lungs up. Or left leg. Yeah.
Sorry. Listen to your teacher.
Exhale as you bend your joints, everything towards the floor. Scoop knee into your belly. Lift up towards the sky. Shift your weight forward and step foot to your left thumb consciously. Turn your back foot down naturally as it would come to the floor. Firmly. Take a deep breath. Create some space. As you exhale, press feet together, zip up along your thighs, scoop up along the back of your spine, roll up behind your heart, and then as you inhale, express out to warrior two. Good.
Nice.
Good.
What do you have to do to me now?
You good?
And anywhere along the way, you can have people be here, 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 here. Maybe the hips don't open as much, that's okay. They can breathe. I'm sure most people in your classes can straighten the arms, but if not, they can just be here. They can put their hands down. But bringing them up from the deep core meridian, and then broken giraffe knee, so they can get back down into their strength.
So warrior two, for whatever reason, we've fallen back into an old format or pattern of body shape. So take a deep breath in. Keep your feet grounded, but exhale, collapse all your joints towards the floor. Relax and bend everywhere you can. So all your joints become soft through your whole body. Good. Take a deep breath in there, fill up, create some space. As you exhale, re-zip up, fire up from the feet, up along the inner legs, up through your hips, along the spine, then inhale, re-extend back up, warrior two.
And then deepen it if you can without losing it.
Then you can add the extra elements to it. Outer body working into and around the inner body. Good. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, cartwheel hands back to the floor. Inhale, back to down dog. Good. Exhale, heels sink down towards the floor. Let's inhale, lift your heels and tailbone, shift your weight out over your wrists, curl all the way forward to plank, and then exhale, softly bend elbows, keep shoulders back, keep core engaged, come down as far as you're comfortable, then scoop up from your belly, keep engagement up along the front of your spine, heart opens, radiates, shoulders back, gaze up. Good. From there, knees down or pointed plank, scoop up from your belly, lift from there all the way back to down dog.
Different, accessible, self-adjusting. In a spectrum, you could say put your knees down. You could say let's go back to broken giraffe. Let's bend everything down and in and roll yourself back up. Come up higher in your warrior two. That's great for beginners. And then see where your expression is. So it's a different form of communicating poses to students that is coming from your anatomical reality and much more able to help everyone find their place within it, because it's a healthy rolling form of movement from the ground up, where everyone will be able to find themselves. And then of course knees down, or take it lower, or don't, take the pose higher or something. So you want to always be languaging for the spectrum of people.
What did you guys notice between those two variations?
Suppleness.
Mm-hmm.
Suppleness?
Yeah. What did you feel?
Strength in the second, just the ability to kind of move yourself more gracefully means that you're building from a core strength, meaning that you're building from the ground, so you kind of one goes into the other, and it looks really easy.
Right.
Yeah.
And you look like you're evolving into the place from the ground. Rolling beautiful and so much more natural coming up, and incrementally just allowing it to come up. Yeah, that's really nice.
Can you speak to, certainly coming from point of plank, coming up from low back spine, front low back spine, or as Tyler just said, from the belly, like what would you normally, I get it confused in my head, low back to front low back.
Okay, front of your low back spine, front of your lumbar spine, in and up.
Yeah.
Top of your hip crest in the front, in and up. Same thing. Deep low belly, in and up. Less effective instruction because you actually don't want to overfire the abdominal muscles. We'll talk about that tonight. 3 to 5% activation is all you need in the abdominal muscles to stabilize your spine. They need to be free from movement and for breath. So you want to get deeper to the muscles on your spine to stabilize your spine. So the instruction, take the front of your low back spine in and up, deep inside the body, is a psoas activator. That's trying to get back deep to your major core spinal stabilizers, which is psoas. Psoas is one.
And that was, we flowed through that pretty quick. What I would normally do is take a lot more time in illustrating these slower.
Yeah.
We tend to do that so that you can really understand what's at work, and then it's about using different languaging just to get engagement.
Our student, and it's tweaky, right? Because we're all used to really working from the low back, because our back body meridian does everything for us in every single pose. We're like, Olympic gymnasts all the time in our postures, and we lose not only the outer, but definitely the inner core. So we want to, it's how you instruct, as you guys intuited, from the ground up. That languaging from the core meridian first, that's a wave-like motion, has to be, it doesn't go linear. You will end up in the look of a pose, but the pose will be infused with strength and ease from the inside out. From your core body that is meant to hold you up most efficiently. That's what it looks like to activate your core strength. And the pose itself, once you're there, will look similar to what Warrior 2, as open as you can be. And like he said, Chaturanga, put your knees down if you need to. Draw in and out to Cobra, and then to transition back dog, you lift from the front belly or the front ribs or the front spine, something like that. Put your knees down or pointed plank. He gave different instructions, a lot of knee down instruction or blah, blah, blah. That's great for beginners because they can put the knees down if they need to. We collapse it down to broken giraffe and then a lot of poses to circle people back to the strength that they can access and not let them start defaulting in a long-held pose into old habits, outer body constriction and stuff that doesn't work. So the first pose, the first stuff was not true strength. It's actually diminishing. It's too much structure, it's too much locking, and not enough freedom. The second one was a balance of freedom and strength, which actually fires up my two bodies instead of just one, outer and inner, and allows me to be even stronger. That fluidity gave me 100 times more strength than the rigid rushing into a shape.
So a much more organic process whereby you can build from the ground up.
Does the flow need to be slow all the time?
No.
No, so you can do all of that at a little bit faster.
Instruct me through a sun salutation, just like a simple high lunge.
Alright, so feet grounded, feel into your feet, feel your legs strong, grow tall out of your feet. Now we're going to bend your knees, collapse to the floor, fill your lungs up, nice deep breath. As you exhale again, zip up along your inner thighs, up along the front low back spine. Keep exhales coming up to chest. Inhale, extend arms up, full breath. Exhale, dive down, knees fold over your body, relax your neck. Inhale, wave it out halfway, fingers on shins or mat. Then exhale, come back to down dog, as you like. Inhale, let's take right leg up to the sky, fill your lungs. And as you exhale, bend all your joints towards the floor. Scoop knee tight to your belly, shift it forward and step foot to your thumb. Inhale, create space here. As you exhale, pull into your thighs, zip up, slowly roll up your spine, and inhale, unfurl arms to the sky. Exhale, hands return to the floor. Inhale, shift back down dog. Exhale, sink your heels down. Inhale, we're going to shift you forward out, zip up along the front of your spine, all the way through heart. Straight line as you exhale, knees down, chaturanga. Inhale, zip up the spine, slowly reveal your heart, shoulders open back. Exhale, lift from pelvis, deeply back to down dog. Good, inhale, left leg up behind you, fill your lungs. Exhale, bend everything deep towards the floor. Scoop knee tight to your belly, shift forward and step foot to your thumb. Inhale to create space in your spine. Exhale, pull in from your foundation, zip up slowly towards the sky. Unfurl your arms, inhale. Exhale, hands back to the floor. From there, inhale back to down dog. Exhale, sink your heels, create space. Then next inhale, we'll just curl up, lift up through deep back spine, all the way forward slowly.
Do beginner one.
Knees down to the floor, elbows softly bend. Come all the way down to the floor. As you're ready, pelvis first, shoulders stay back. Inhale, roll back, elbows tight, heart open, little cobra, gaze up. From deep core still, come back to your knees. And let your core belly lift you all the way back to down dog. Good. Inhale, let's lift heels high. Exhale, bend knees, gaze forward, step, jump, or float between your hands. Good. Inhale, wake up. Exhale, fold, release your neck and spine. Ground through feet. Inhale, prepare. As you exhale, bend deep, scoop up along your spine. Inhale to unfurl arms to the sky. Exhale, palms down.
And the more that people study with you, the more that they can start to flow. You know, and sometimes, like, we flow a lot in our workshops, even though we're workshopping you, but then we stop and break something down too, and we're like, here's what you're doing, let's flow that again, you know, here's how to do it. So don't be afraid to stop and really work something. We're not just choreographers, we're yoga teachers. They want to learn more about the practice and themselves, so don't worry about me. This is something that we do because we think students want to just flow and nothing else, and like if we don't move them, they're not going to get a workout in their own minds, and then they're not coming back, but screw them. I love them. Because ultimately, yes, they are your family, your community, and you have nothing but respect and love for them, but you're not here to do what they want you to do. You're here to teach them something they didn't know they needed until they got to your class, because it's important to you to share it. And this is, let's go back, so there's a lot, I mean, we could do a 6-hour workshop on how to cue that and how to move that, and you will get the idea. It's really the same thing over and over and over again. It's just, it culminates in different postures. So to know, as we have to know in advance where you want to go, he has to know he's going to plank pose from down dog, because he's got to instruct me in the transition. It's a transitional instruction. The way that you get into every pose is 99% of the alignment, maybe 90% of the alignment. After you get up into a warrior one, that's it. That's the expression. That's the full extent. It should be the culmination of what you've done all the way before that. Once you get up into the full expression of a pose and you start trying to align it, it's a little late because you're already in full expression, you're locked out, and you haven't activated the deep core body, which is instrumental to holding up the rest of the posture properly. Because you can't just start firing it once you're up in space. You have to do it from the ground up.
Kind of like body memory as well. Like if you're getting into the pose and then correcting afterwards, your body doesn't remember how to get into the pose and come into it.
Exactly. I love the illustration that you give of if you're building a 3-story house, you don't typically start with the roof and then add the front door and then add the 3rd story and then add in the window over here. You're not ever going to build it properly. I mean, you'll get something together kind of rickety, but if we start from the foundation always and start building from the foundation, then that will become habit, that will become natural, and that will become the basis of a very long, healthy practice.
Sure. So that's okay. So go ahead. Yeah.
I have a student who has I'm not too sure if it's just really short Achilles heels or whether it's just really tight. But she's been practicing with me for, I think, probably nearly 3 years. And Warrior 1, Warrior 2 is a big struggle for her. Utkatasana is near impossible. And, you know, like, no matter where we go, like, the access is different for her in comparison to the majority of the students. And I'm just wondering, even with that, like, you know, coming from the ground up, like, I try to talk from coming from the ground up a lot of the time, but it's a structural thing within her body that doesn't necessarily change.
Sure.
So how do I access something that's really good for her at the same time?
Have you ever seen those wedges? They're mat-wide wedges.
Oh yes, yeah.
That we usually use for wrists.
Yep.
I'm not even drawing it right. Whatever. It's a big triangle that goes like that. I would put one.
It's a quarter of it.
Can you do it your hardest?
Yeah.
So I would put one, if I were you, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
I would put one at the back of her mat.
Yeah.
Facing this way.
Yep.
I would put one at the, near the front of her mat, so she could grab it if she wanted to, or even on the front if she wants to do it for her wrist too. But that way, when she steps her foot back into warrior anything, she's got her heel elevated now, so she can find the ground and roll herself up into these poses properly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that'd be good for her, right? And then she would be able to get the press that lights up these muscles and warms the muscles, so she could then stretch them more optimally, and perhaps release that Achilles out over time. Then replace, in 6 months, take away that thing and have her do something like maybe she can get a longer mat, roll it over a couple times so it's lower than the wedge, and somehow fasten it, like maybe she's got a piece of duct tape she just put here during practice.
Yeah, amazing, right.
I mean, you gotta work with who you have. The problem with open level classes is that you got people who actually need one-on-ones.
Exactly. And this is what I say in class all the time. Yoga is a one-on-one thing, but now we're in this environment where it's, let's try and get 100 people in the class, you know, like, and then it's okay, so, you know, you can speak to the masses, but there's going to be loopholes, you know, people missing out there, people injuring themselves, people...
I mean, look, it's your responsibility to do the best that you can, and to create the class that you feel like you offer, and then know that it's always going to be an imperfect offering, and that's beautiful and that's appropriate. You could teach a million things in one moment. You just have to choose what you think is best. So we'll go into some of the structure and creativity here so that you can get more of a template to work with. But know that what we're talking about ultimately is this transitional alignment, inner body alignment. You have to do a couple of things in order to get into these poses optimally. So it's not just foundation upward, like you can talk about ground the feet, and then you can fire the quadriceps, and then you can draw, navel to spine, and then reach up. That's not going to do it. It has to, first you have to start with bent limbs to get into your inner body core, which is really fascinating. It doesn't fire up properly with straight legs or arms, so hence you saw us bend first. Two things occur there. One is that you press your whatever's down from the bend. You get way more momentum up from the earth. So the soft tissue, as the bones press down, the soft tissue will rise up and start activating that deep body line. The minute you go like this, you start firing outer body meridians, and you don't need to use that inner body. Can't connect anyway. So it's always a bend and a softening and a surrendering to the moment to reveal your inner strength. Anybody here? Life lesson right there? Not just So anyway, you bend first, you soften, you surrender, you press, and you gotta roll up. It's not this. This back body cannot lead us anymore. It's not doing us any good. It's way over tense now. It's shortening the lumbar spine in the back, the sacrum. It's making us heavier, it's taking us out of our core. We can use it later, but last. So you want to press down and then soften your spine and roll up into every pose. And then let the arms express after that roll up hits the chest area. Then the arms unfurl. You also unfurl the arms with bent elbows. Outward.
So it's kind of like a domino effect, like you...
Yeah, right. Exactly. In that way also you're lighting up you're using more muscles in your body, therefore you're lighting up and creating more connection between the whole body as you go through it step by step. With foundation, with understanding energetic connection to your foundation, which is overall grounding and is healthy for the body, to actually energizing long term, because you're lighting up deep core meridians. And also I think this is, like you're saying, it's not that we don't use outer body. Like there are big muscles and they're meant to be used. But we need to be especially conscious of the quality of what we're working with. As we said, you have bones, you have muscles, but importantly what we're talking about is the fascia. It's a very huge part of the equation that has been overlooked, heavily overlooked. And this type of teaching is resonant with that. It is integrated with the fascia, and the way the fascia integrates with your overall practice.
Yeah, it's a myofascial practice, muscle and fascia intercommunication.
And when you start your practice, it's always good to understand that your fascia has a certain quality when it's cold versus when it's warm. Very different qualities, and will deeply affect your practice if you don't consider that. Which, you know, we talk about getting warm, but the fascia is how do you describe it?
Like honey-dipped frozen pantyhose over every muscle.
So imagine in the beginning you start just cranking into that. What's it going to do to your? You're going to crack it.
And we all do it. Look, here's how we crank. Inhale, reach the arms out and up, straight legs. High hamstrings, you suck. Exhale.
Yeah.
Right away. Fold forward, inhale, oh, right up into it, exhale, downward dog, sink into the low back, overstretch the hamstrings, inhale, low back, depresses, exhale, something, whatever, inhale, crank up into the low back, right, exhale, crank into the low back, and fold, and overstretch the shoulders and the hamstrings and the stuff, and it's not that you're meaning to do it if you are instructing just the simple outer body, the outer body way. It's how we've been taught. It's just that. So we now as teachers can evolve. We can refine and evolve. I had to. I was teaching Ashtanga Anusara with some Kundalini elements and Vinyasa flow, and I was just like uber creative. I was like, let's see what we can do from here and do that. And people would be like, my knee hurts. I'm like, just breathe. I don't know. My back is hurt. I'm like, well, just, pull your navel to spine. No? Okay. So I realized I didn't know anything about anatomy, and I went to study with Leslie Kaminoff, who's a genius anatomist in New York, but worldwide. He wrote the book Yoga Anatomy.
That's one of our texts.
Yes, love it. Leslie's a very close friend of mine now, and we're co-teaching. We're all co-teaching a retreat in April in Mexico. Like, we're all in it to win it now. I love what he does. He loves what I do. And he says, the way that we're teaching, he said, you are two of the only yoga teachers in the world that I would recommend. And then I go, well, you can't really say that, right? But so write it nicer. So he's like, Sadie is one of the only yoga teachers in America whose work I unreservedly recommend. That's good, right? Better. But the thing is, the reason is because these guys are masters. They know how the body works. They know how it works in yoga posture. They know yoga philosophy, energetics, and how the body works and how it works in yoga posture. Holistically, not just a muscle doing this, but the fact that your fascia is covering every muscle and then interconnecting and communicating through your joints to another muscle and blah, blah, blah. So now we know muscles are in lines, not singular muscles only, right? So we have got to understand now as teachers how to evolve this practice, knowing what we know. And it looks a lot different than so far how we've been taught. And that's not to say the classical masters didn't know what they were doing, or they did know what they were doing, so we can't say anything else. They were not anatomists. Okay, Krishnamacharya is Desikacharya's dad. Krishnamacharya made most of these poses that you see today, created them, taught them only to young Indian boys or therapeutics. That's it. No open classes for adults. He taught Pattabhi Jois and Iyengar, and his son Desikacharya is Leslie's teacher. It's a direct lineage from the guy who started most of these poses, so I think I can speak from what I've heard from Leslie about this dude, that he was a brilliant Sanskrit scholar, he was energetically very intuitive, physically not an anatomist. He killed Pattabhi Jois's hamstrings once. He was like, do the splits cold. Pattabhi Jois is like, I don't think anything. He's like, do it! Do it. And he did it, and he ripped his hamstrings. Okay, so we can take it with a grain of salt, realize that these postures have value, and then adapt them to our current knowledge and understanding of holistic anatomy. And here we are today.
The beauty of science.
The beauty of science. So we're talking about the science of sequencing. We literally mean it.
So a lot of times, in terms of getting back to that creative element, there's, you have to get the anatomy. It's so important. That's the basic structure from which we can create our beautiful worlds. But if you don't have that, I've seen plenty of times teachers will start with just like crazy poses,
Straight leg stuff within the first 20 minutes is not acceptable.
Seated forward bend first posture.
Yeah, I've had triangle and the sun salutation and flow, and anyway, our folding forward with straight legs. Almost everybody does that. And the students have learned to do it. And down dog with the heels way down, the sit bones way up, over stretching, not balanced. It's okay to do it, but then you have to also counter. But it's a whole thing, right? But if you wave up into your poses, you have a way greater chance of doing these poses safely. I've had people with SI joint issues and knee stuff, all sorts of stuff, and they come up in this way, and it just doesn't irritate it. Because your spine is actually in alignment the entire time and supported, and never in a place where you're you're not dumping weight and pressure into the lumbar and sacrum or other joints. So it's just a much more organic way. And I'm not here to say our way is the only way. There are lots of other great ideas out there. I'm saying knowing anatomy, it makes it more democratic. It's not about my style, it's about the body. And of course within that we've got variations. So, but if you roll up and you wave up and you find the order to teach the transitional movement into the pose, people's bodies will just stop them where they need to be, but it won't usually be at an unhealthy place because they're supported up until then. So even if their arms are a little bent or their legs are a little bent, they're supported within that, so it's not going to be like this out of control kind of misalignment. Yeah.
Is your sequencing in the language you use mainly around structure, so bones, ligaments, tendons, muscles, or does it also incorporate other parts in there, heart, lungs, deeper parts? So I've heard the expression, and I borrowed it or stole it, is when you come up into warrior 1 or 2, is lift with the lungs. So when you come up, it's this lift that brings you up and then you soften down. So do you use that, or is it more about getting the alignment of the spine, using language to get the alignment of the muscles and bones?
I would definitely go physics. It's all physics. That's what we start with. You can incorporate other elements of the body, but the reason you're sitting is because of your bone structure. There's no other reason, and the way that interacts with your muscles. If we take out bones of the equation, we have a very different thing. That is something. Yeah, that's just like rubber on the ground.
Yes.
I'm not talking to that person. That's not a real thing. I'm talking to a person who is existing from the physics of bones. And so, so starting with pretty much always foundation, and then the bones, because the bones are the foundation of the body. The body's founded upon that. And then you can move out from there. That understood, and if that is well ingrained into the practice, then you can begin to incorporate, I think, other elements as well. As long as you can kind of touch on those, like roll up. You don't have to go through and tell them how to distinguish between every joint up and down the spine.
Yeah, the thing about the wave, as we call it, or the roll up, or the stacking, or however you want to, like a fern grows up out of the earth, right? Is that for me is the primary instruction. Once you get them up there, you can talk about the other stuff. So I wouldn't lift from the lungs, which is going to fire the back body meridian to get you up into the poses. I would support the lungs to lift from the ground and the root upward. Then talk about how you've lifted the lung, how you're going to lift that could be a whole class, like how you're going to lift the heart, the lung area, this chest, the heart. How do you truly support the heart? Blow it wide open. Lead with here, have everything I want. Here, love me, I'm going to love you. Oh wait, I forgot to love myself. No, we don't just blow open the front of the heart, right? We have a whole heart center. This is an open heart. That's what it looks like. Even in a back bend, it's not that usually ever. A little bit of this, stretch the spine, cool, but like in our poses, we don't want to do that. It shuts down the breathing in the back of the lungs, and it over compresses the spine because we're using the big back muscle meridian, back body. So instead I would say, roll up, lift the heart, lift the lungs from the inside. The flame lifts up and fires and illuminates the lungs, the chest space from the inside without losing it in any direction or collapsing it. So how we rolled up ends up organically supporting that. Right? So what you're talking about is an expression, it's last, it's an organic outcome of a grounded and rooted and lifting practice from the core body. Then you talk about what you just did, instead of leading from the outcome, which is unsupported now. So if that makes sense. So we would always do the same thing, which is find the foundation, bend in, press it down, roll up from it, talking about maybe a couple of important areas that you're lifting or moving, and then talk about, in the expression of the pose, other benefits. Returning, of course, maybe to the ground or to waving the spine a little bit. So we talk a lot about the inner body, like the breath.
Do people's feet affect that inner body?
Oh yeah.
So, you know, you get some students who've got bunions and stuff and really bizarrely shaped feet through shoes and whatnot, but
Really flat.
yeah, and so, you know, the way that they step forward, the way that they put their feet into the floor, where their balance is and stuff, like, how do you talk to that?
You go back to the anatomy. Isn't this nice? It's like, because every style has 2 points and 3 and 4 and whatever, but anatomically, you have 3 points on the foot, bony points that meet the earth. Ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, center of the heel, that's it. So if they have those, more or less, that they can get onto the earth, that's what you need to be able to spark this core meridian. They don't need arches yet. They'll build the arches as they come, you know, huge arch strength. But if you start with straight legs, you can talk about pressing those things down all you want, but you're not going to get any extra lift up from the earth, and you're not going to inspire the deep core line to lift. It won't. You can lift the arches like this, so you'll have some arches squishing in and up. That's like squeezing your anus and calling that core strength. You're just getting anal retentive. You're just, okay? But I hear that a lot. You have Ashwini Mudra, which is just like, squeeze it, tighten it. Well, that's not doing, that's just closing you in. So you always want an in and an up. Some kind of upward motion. So I can just fire my arches or fire my psoas all I want, but if you're doing it, even though they're part of the deep core meridian, it still shuts you down. You have to create a vertical lift. It's called axial extension. It's one of the 6 ways your spine moves. We know about 4 usually in yoga: side bends, forward bend, twist, back bend. The fifth is axial extension. So lengthening and decompressing from earth upward, from the pelvis through the spine. That can't happen from here, not that much. It happens way better when you get into that inner body line, which is meant, it's on the skeleton, so it's meant to be compressed.
Can we do this?
Yeah, sure. So why don't you guys all come stand? And I do know that you had a question back here. Thank you for... Raise your hand again if we haven't called on you in a while, but I'm acknowledging your presence. See, this is why we could just do this all day. But so I hope you're not bored. These are all good tools. We'll get into the structure. Won't take so long. I want you to know it. But this is our physics teaching. We're going to do this in the physics workshop more and more. You'll see it in lots of poses. But basically, with straight legs right now, try to wave up through your body and see if you can find a decompression of the spine from earth through the crown of the head. See if you can find enough of a wave that generates your arms to be able to lift up to the sky. Do you feel energized to lift your arms? Do you feel inspired to lift your arms right now? So you're going to, without inspiration, have to lift the arms. Inspiration. Inspiration. Literally an uplift from within. You don't have it. You're not inspired. So we're going to get the arms up there the most obvious way, which is to lift from what should be the outcome. To lift what should be rooted from underneath and inspired and generated from something else, but no. So we're going to just reach the arms out and up. We do that a lot. And just lift those arms and be here with it. Can you feel, and some of you are softer, which is fine, but let's go full expression because a lot of students do that. They just do exactly what we say, lift the arms and really reach. And then can you feel your shoulders are lifted up, and mostly this pose happened from an arched back body and the neck and shoulders, the higher up you go towards what should be the outcome, the effortless expression of the pose, has become the main generator of the pose. That's backwards. So now we're causing weird body tension, joint compression, and ik-asanas. Ik-asana. So now most teachers will say, what? Put the shoulders down. Roll the shoulders down your back. Have fun, because that's what's holding you up. So if you relax your shoulders, can you feel it go into the low back? Yep. So you're in compression, it's not as much decompression. So release that out. Is that holistic yoga? Did you even notice your belly? Did you notice your feet on the ground or anything? So bend your knees, try it this way. Bend your knees, get close to the earth. So we first surrender to what is. We surrender to the reality of our moment. And then you can lift all 10 toes, because that helps inspire the arches to lift. But we're really going to get this wave to happen by bending the knees deep and then pressing the feet down, the bony points of the feet underneath the big toe, the pinky toe, the center of the heel. So take an inhale, bend in, prepare. And on the exhale, press your feet way down and roll up so the front of your pelvis and spine draws in and up. You unfurl yourself. When that energy hits the heart, bend the elbows, take the shoulders back, and stretch up. Do you feel your feet? Are you more aware of your feet and pelvis? Foundation and core. Did you feel more inspired to lift the arms? As a natural, organic outcome of what your body's doing right now? And do your shoulders feel as tense? Does your neck feel as tense? Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Like that whole first one, I felt in my knees, in my upper back, in my lower back. And then just there, I was just like, boom.
Because we have random muscles firing. We have maybe your thighs and maybe your lower back, and then maybe your upper shoulder joints, and then you have random muscles relaxed. Like should be activated. Core, exactly. Parts and pieces are activated. This way we activate systematically.
Holistic movement. And isn't it easy to switch from your same body, but look at the outcome from the first one, what that's going to get you over time and repetition, and what the second one would get you over time and repetition. Let's wave a little bit more just to feel it, because now you can get a little more wild with it. So here's the thing we will talk to you about bringing in the more other layers of things. Okay? Now when you're waving through the deep core line, you're stimulating fascia and muscles. Fascia has 20 times more nerves and are on it than in the muscles themselves. So you're also stimulating what the Chinese medicine practitioners would call the meridians, the energy meridians. They're about 91% exact to the muscle meridians of the body, or the myofascial meridians. So when we're stimulating deep core body, you're stimulating all of your inner organs. You're stimulating your source chi lines, your source life force. So hopefully you will feel more alive and inspired. Your ability to go with the flow and detoxify yourself, the letting go meridians, as well as the self-knowledge, self-strengthening meridians. So that's kind of cool to know about. So light that up and you're going to get all these systems go. So inhale, bend down. Exhale, roll up. Find that wave for the front of the pelvis and spine. Lift it up. We bend those elbows. I'll tell you why in a moment. And reach. And exhale. So get a little wild, a little more energetic with the breath. Inhale down to the belly. Exhale, hug and lift up from the belly as you roll yourself up and stretch. Feel the pose. Good. Hands to your chest at namaste. That's what I want to feel like in yoga class. So do you feel it? Yeah. Now let's do this again one more time. Okay, inhale, reach out and up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, prepare. I don't know. Exhale, fold. Inhale, swan dive out and up.
Really in my bones. I feel really stuck when I do that. Yeah.
Does it feel more or less energetic? I'm interested in life energy too. To do this, because we're actually not firing your deep source energy or infusing your organs or your central nervous system with as much stimulation. It feels really limiting.
Yeah.
You feel yourself moving from joints and bones, and not in the way that we want, not in the good physics. It's bad physics. It's yanking a big long telephone pole of an arm up from the bottom of a telephone pole, and all the muscles just kind of grab. Oh shit, that's what happens. Oh shit, every time we do a practice. And then we're practicing in the OS asana, right? So like, yeah, and the body's like, oh, you don't hurt yourself. So grab, don't, and then oh again, grab. And then grab again before they hurt themselves. And so are we creating this kind of outer body anxiety throughout the practice when we could be infusing this inner body support? Now you're secure because your body knows that you have it. It's in good physics. It's in sukha, good space. Instead of dukkha, which is bad space, which sounds exactly like what it is.
So I have a question now. Every time you want, and it's coming back to this, because what I noticed then was that the breath felt so much safer, as opposed to what I see happening a lot, and it's really exciting because she has flipping the Western conditioning on his brain, which is really exciting, is that, and I'm wondering what your perception is of the breath now, especially in vinyasa, applying breath to a movement, where now, especially in power flow classes, you see, and I see it a lot as a student and as a teaching, a breath that is being spoken, which is in tune or aligned with the breath, and people, and there's so much hyperinflation going on, and it's my biggest fear actually in the vinyasa practice. So this is really beautiful, and I'm wondering if you've played around and considered the breath now. I mean, clearly that kind of just natural, organic movement allows the breath to bring you up, as opposed to bring you to this dizzy space.
I mean, the breath is everything. We teach it very mindfully, very specifically, and the thing is, a lot of the ways that the breath has been taught in vinyasa flow is opposite to how you actually need to be supporting yourself. So when you exhale, your abdominal and pelvic muscles, if you activate them on the exhale, will hug your pelvis, hold the sacrum, and keep that lumbar spine lengthened instead of compressing. So we've got a lot of, most of our transitions in yoga are done on the inhale, old school yoga. Okay, let's just call it inhale. So we'll inhale here, right when we're let go of abdominal support and pressure on the inhale, right when we need it to counterbalance this overarch of the lumbar. So now we're holding that telephone pole from the lumbar spine and sacrum, and we're inhaling, which releases pressure and releases support for the spine. And then we'll exhale down, okay, and then we'll inhale up. Again, with the inhale. We'll inhale to kick up into handstand when the lumbar is such in need of support. What I tend to do, and Tyler has a classical breath training too, and he brings his own stuff in too, but what I like to do is to exhale through every transition and inhale into the pose. So sometimes I have 2 breaths where other people have 1 breath. As students progress with me, they can inhale into, let's say, plank, but they know that they're stabilizing underneath that inhale instead of inhaling to let go.
I think we let the breath, what we're teaching is the breath to serve the movements and the postures, so therefore, like she said, even breaking it down into 2 breaths so that you can see the way the exhale works in the body, the way the inhale works in the body. Basically, I think that it's oversimplified when it's inhale up and out, exhale in and down. It's really quite simplified, but really what I think it is really exhale, bring it in, hug it in, inhale, express. And that can begin to be the format.
So in this way, it's good. You can still flow too, because you've got an extra transition. You've got a transitional pose between each pose now. In this formula, in this style. So you can exhale, then you inhale to the next one. It looks more like this. So usually what do? We inhale to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Something like that. So I inhale, then knees prepare. Exhale as I transition and need spinal support. Inhale into that pose once I'm supported. Exhale, lower down with the support. Good. Inhale, draw that belly in and up. I'm very clear. Or sometimes I'll say exhale and then inhale. Definitely exhale here because we're supporting that spine.
By breaking it into 2 parts, you give them the idea of always hugging in first. Whenever we do expressive moves, always start with the belly and then get the expression. If they understand that, then you can just skip the first exhale, it's just the inhale, and then we start to get speed.
Yeah, so I pick and choose where I'm going to do 2 exhale and an inhale. If the transition is longer, like inhale, prepare, exhale, lift that belly and hop. Inhale, draw the belly in, wave forward. You could do it both ways, but I just like that one movement. But I tell them, inhale, draw the belly in, wave the spine. Exhale, bend the knees and fold. Inhale, bend the knees a lot. Exhale, begin to roll up. Exhale, then inhale, fill the pose. Yeah, people love that exhale up. Yeah, because that's where you're in full support and you're going to get the most out of your exhale. We also train you to inhale and exhale from inside the body, pelvic, diaphragm, and floor. Pulsing. Inhale, let it go. Exhale, hug it up. Inhale, let it go. Exhale, hug it up. That's Mula Bandha.
And for me, ultimately, what's the most exciting thing about really getting this technique is the lift that that can give you for flying poses, for jump forwards, for handstand, and so forth.
A lot of stuff. So we do have an online teacher training of all of this. It's called the Evolution. You get $200 off if you're here with me, because I reward people who show up to classes with discounts and stuff, but it's not that much more than that. That's about 50% off. If you guys are ever interested, you can give us your email and we'll send you the information about that. That's the 5-day training on how to put and cue and sequence and speak this into all the kinds of poses that you could teach. Yeah, if you want. So, anybody else? Did I skip anything?
Just a question. So how does cue then, you sort of touched on it, how do you cue like core or bandha?
Mula
Bandha?
Bandha?
More hugging in rather than
Or you mean Uddiyana?
or either one.
Like Mula Bandha? Okay, so
Yeah, so we do that in the breath. So what we've discovered is that the bandhas classically are not made for movement. They're made
the
for
classical
stillness.
looking.
Right, that's what they were designed for. But they can be extremely helpful in the movements if they're used appropriately. So we do the exhale lifting of Mula Bandha and pulling of Uddiyana Bandha, locking together, this being the flying lock, can then go in that way create the space. So, and then also during your breath, you have a continual movement of the Mula Bandha in and out, which is a deep warming cleansing.
So how exactly we do that is, because a lot of people don't know what Mula Bandha is, beyond an esoteric concept, right? So, or some kind of thing that we like squeeze in. There's always got to be an up. This is the thing about this kind of practice in anatomy. If you're rolling through the deep core line, it has to be lifting you upward. If you're hugging something, it doesn't matter what. If it's the low belly, if it's the navel, if it's the pelvic muscles, it has to be not only in but up, because otherwise you're just going to crush and compress and contract and make yourself heavier, or press out the lumbar spine, or whatever it is. So if you think about your pelvic diaphragm, that's for me Mula Bandha proper, the root support, bless you, the root lift, and then the pelvic perineum, the pelvic floor, which is outside the pelvis. The pelvic diaphragm is inside the pelvis. So those are two different things, and a lot of teachers don't know about that. Like floor 1 and 2 of an elevator, but they're interconnected and communicative, but they're not the same thing. So a lot of times we're told to just squeeze the bathroom muscles and just like activate them, which squeezes outside the pelvis. It's not as effective for stabilizing your pelvis and lumbar and sacrum, which is inside. So you want to think about, this is our breath, and we'll teach it more throughout the weekend, but as you inhale, you release the low belly, you release the pelvic diaphragm, and that pelvic diaphragm, a bowl of muscles inside the pelvis, is what it is. So you release the pelvic muscles downward and outward and belly on the inhale. Your spinal muscles can just totally efficiently hold your spine up deep inside the body. You can let all this go on an inhale. On the exhale, you hug the bathroom muscles and lift them up through the pelvis. That will also fire your low belly, but it's this kind of in and up movement. Exhale will press the air all the way out. So it's just, we'll describe it later in the weekend or the week, but
and supports the wave.
It supports the wave, and it supports the way that your breath moves. On an inhale, it goes like this through the body, and the exhale, it goes like this. So we inhale, relax, release. We exhale, hug and lift every breath in our yoga practice until we rest at the end.
To that, because there's a lot of people who overwork Mula Bandha, right? So you get especially Ashtangi.
I don't think they overwork it. I think they squeeze it.
Over-squeeze, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you think about, is there a danger in talking to people who might not have so much body awareness about that area, Or whereas if you talk about the whole deep front line, which start, you know, running from the big toe and up tibialis posterior and all that through the core, would that be an easier way to guide people into it so that they don't perhaps over squeeze something, and because then they focus too much about that one area and they might get blindsided?
Yeah, you want to do it all. I mean, you want to talk about the deep core body and how you're rolling up and waving into it. You want to let the breath be very clearly something that frees you and also strengthens you in a pulsation. And your languaging matters. You know, if you're talking about squeeze it in, harden it, because a lot of Ashtangis and other people are told to hug Mulabandha all the time. And you never want to hug any muscle all the time while you're doing anything. Otherwise, you're going to get tension and lack of blood flow and lack of central nervous system communication and all that stuff. So you want to just re-teach that in a more, I think, organic way. Address it. Say, some of you guys are just really tight in that belly and tight in the pelvis, and we need to open it up. So the inhales are really important because you can really let everything go and widen. When you exhale, you mindfully hug in and up to support yourself. Inhale, let it go. Exhale. It's part of the deep core line or deep front line. Fascially, the pelvic diaphragm and floor are interconnected to the rest of it, so it's part of it. You need it. But the question is just retraining people to breathe with their pelvis instead of lock it.
You're not suggesting sucking the belly in and up. You're speaking from the inside.
This is what happens. I'm really strong in my pelvic diaphragm now. And if you can see my kind of belly area, this is what happens with an organic breath. Okay, so this is an inhale. See it open a little bit more? And on the exhale, see what that did to the rest of my spine? It rolled it upward. It's okay to draw the belly in and up. You want that. You want to give yourself this inner body, literally a massage, a movement here of at least the intestinal area, the gut. But you want to let it go too, so it's got both. So we inhale. I'm not even squeezing this belly. The pelvic activation has toned its connection around transverse abdominis and pyramidalis down here, and it's drawing it in and up as part of the pelvic diaphragm.
So where do you start it from? You as a conscious being, you're making the decision. Yeah, exactly. So some students would just automatically go right like that and suck it in. So they're coming from here. They're kind of sucking it in. Not necessarily coming from the center.
When you start with your root, then you're automatically starting with the middle.
We have people sit on the hands. We have people envision a golden flame at the center of their pelvis. They're dropping it, a water balloon, dropping down warm wine through this whole area, and then exhale, vertical line through the root upward. This is the thing. Breath is not just out and in. You've got to be really clear. Movement is not just out and in either. Front body, back body, front body, back body. We're lunge, down dog, something else. It's in, it's up. It's a vertical. Inhale, vertical down from the nose through the inner body down through the pelvic root. Exhale is a vertical line up from the root of the pelvis through the center body out the nose or the mouth.
Sitting on one of those, big fit balls. That, when you can really feel that pressing actually up into the perineum. That's what I found that like a really strong sort of mind-body connection. So very sort of deep kinesthetic awareness.
Roll their mat up, stick it here. And have them sit on it. Get it up. Just remind people of what this is why now we're talking about sequencing. We're talking about how you're communicating what to your classes. Because you are a yoga teacher, so you're here to really be with the reality of the body and how to best stimulate, strengthen, and make more safe and free your students' practice. So feel free to do this stuff, even in a flow class. Start every day with a theme or a physical, lesson. I like both, and then connect it through the whole class. That's a teaching. Now people are coming to you because not only are you fun and you're hard and you're creative, but they're gaining wisdom. Teachers will start coming to your classes more because they're learning stuff like that from you. This is the thing, and it's all to do with the anatomy. First and foremost, and then you start stimulating everything else and talking about the parallel between that and everything. So, and I just wanted to say the vertical line too is pressing into the earth, rolling it up through the inner body. You've got to let yourself go vertical. You can't be just out or in, or navel to spine, or back body firing, or heart open, or legs straight. You've got to be vertical. This is called Sushumna, the central channel. We hear about it all the time in yoga. What is it? It's your inner body. Potentially your spinal cord, if you're thinking about a river of light inside the body that infuses the rest of the nadis, that would be the spinal column for me. The lotus, the 1,000-petal lotus, the brain. I mean, we are the magic. Just a more kind of physical body sheath of that more energetic body, but we can see it every level interconnects like that.
That's very kosher.
Yeah. Let's in a minute. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to tell you guys. Let's do this and then we'll come over here.
It's just sort of to follow on what Mickey was asking about how you think of cueing, bring the belly in. Because you do hear a lot of teachers say navel to spine, and you get it in Pilates and things like that. But wouldn't that instantly lead to tension around the lower back, to bring lower back or bring navel to spine, just closes off, so you wouldn't get that.
Right.
You don't get the support.
I don't say navel to spine. Because what it does is make people take their navel to their spine.
It creates this
And that is rectus abdominis.
Yeah. So do you make a point of saying, how do you ensure that people when they practice differentiate between navel to spine and belly in and up?
First of all, I don't say navel to spine, so they don't even have that context. But if they have had that context, I say navel to spine will take out your low back curve, right? It's very compressive for the sacrum and the lumbar curve, and it shuts you off from your digestive system, and it's not great. So what we do in class is we may say draw the belly in and up once in a while, for sake of being quick. But that's after we've taught all about what we're actually doing from the body. So we will talk more about press the feet down, lift the arches, lift the inner thighs, draw the front top pelvic crest, the as is, draw that back and up, draw the front spine in and up. We instruct spinally and skeletally.
Cool.
Yeah, so our students go deeper inside. They get a vision of their bodies moving behind the organs, supporting themselves from way back there on the spine. So front of the lumbar spine in and up, sacrum and back lumbar spine in and up. Those two things lift up the whole spine, lift the chest, right? Wave that length up through the spine, unfurl the arms. We don't talk about outer body stuff anymore that much.
Cool.
Because that will fire naturally when you are coming from your inner body. The outer body will reconstitute itself properly around it naturally. We have to say, lift the quads and fire the triceps. They are already there. So much easier to learn the template of instruction that will cause 800 things to happen instead of always trying to talk about 800 things. Let the student get into their practice the most fluidly so that they can actually spend some time in these poses thinking about other things besides the physical body.
Then how do you, when you do an inversion like shoulder stand, that's still moving up, but how do you get them to ground down through shoulders, elbows, whatever?
It's the same upside down or downside up. Like let's do handstand, for example. I mean, shoulder stand is more restrictive because it's got a pretty set foundation. But he instructs shoulder stand usually, so he'll draw the plates of the shoulder blades down, the elbows down, and you still draw this core line in and up, so you're not hanging out in the lumbar spine and then lengthening from it. So it's this wave that goes down to the pelvis, travels up through the legs, also moving from the pelvis back into the earth. Just finding whatever vertical expression through the innermost body you can get from these poses. But handstand, which is on the arms, has to look not like this anymore. But like this, through the deep core. So the way that we instruct these poses has to be much different. I mean, that's an inner body handstand that's happening, and my legs are able to be light and free because the rest of the pose hasn't. rather than it coming from my legs with no extra support or power from my arms. So we don't start from the expression, we start from what's going to be on the earth, which is the hands and that foot that has to be there. We start there, draw it up into the core and wave the legs up with support, just like we did this with the arms, same with the legs there. It's all a directional, how you express it thing. And it seems like there may be a lot to learn there, but actually it's a template, it repeats itself. You just have to know in which pose, you just have to think about it.
Question.
Yes?
I want to ask, when you do like a more sitting on the floor work, like twist and like, drum, how do you do this more flowy or like drawing in? Because like twist sometimes can be inhale, twist,
right,
lock and stuff like this,
that kind of thing. And then we'll just say, hey, if you want to, you could do like this. If you want to, you can turn around towards the back of your mat. Keep breathing. Keep breathing with that Mulabandha breath. Maybe you can tip it forward like Chaturanga. Maybe you can, because you're already supported. Press down into your hands. That's your foundation. Lift up into that front pelvic crest, especially the right one, and express your legs from there. And come back. And then we'll counter pose. Take a deep breath in, wave long. Exhale and fold. And then take some wavy breaths here. Exhale. Make sure to lengthen down to your belly as you're inhaling, and exhale, press it out and fold. That sort of thing. So it is a very kind of waving practice. You can also do static poses once you get up there if you like more static. He does too, and I do sometimes. But I'm a girl, so I don't want to dance and be a firefly. So structure is good. Anybody else before we move into a little bit of a template? Okay. So everybody understand basis is this anatomical movement that then you can do whatever with. That alone will give you some creativity and inspiration. Because you will feel it more when you do it. Your students will feel it more. And it's fun playing with how do I activate this pose from the deep core body out, upward and outward. How do I, this one. Anything you want to add?
Exactly. It allows you for the physical creativity. You get to play with it because it's new. It's a whole new thing. It's a logarithmic versus a very base way of doing things.
It's very hard to go from this to this. Let's say yesterday I was teaching this way, and today I'm going to teach this way. And so, personally, I always find when I'm sort of trying to implement, a new concept that work with myself first and really bed it down with myself in my own practice, and then dish it out to my students maybe. But I think sometimes too, I think we're all pretty, on board with what you're saying. I think as a collective group, knowing lots of people in the room, so to do that, and it takes time to actually implement these changes with a collective group. So there will be AYA teachers that'll will sort of jump on board with a common theme or something that we're really working on, and then it starts to permeate all the classes, and then in 3 months' time that's just how it is.
Yeah, I love it. Of course, it's a process. Yeah. This is a big concept, and the thing is, between Tyler and I, we have deeply taught and understood almost every major type of yoga, and then moving into the anatomy, seeing how universally we have understood it or not understood it, and how important it is to put back into the practice, and how things need to evolve. It's interesting. I get resistance sometimes from people who about their style because they don't want to let go of what their teacher taught them, and I understand that and I respect that. However, you just have to feel it in your own body over time. So what I would do is start practicing it sometimes on your own. Not always, but sometimes feel it. Get some inspiration. Go to the YouTube channels. Go to some stuff that we're making, or do the training or whatever, and just feel it, and then start sharing what you can about it. Maybe discipline yourself with that structure and start through the deep core line, which begins, if you want to say begins somewhere, maybe it ends here too, but let's say begins underneath the toes and fingertips and goes up into Hasta Bandha. We call it Hasta Bandha, hand support, the arches of the hands. Pada Bandha, underneath the toes, inner arches of the feet, arch support of the feet, Pada Bandha. You could start with how to engage Hasta Bandha for a class and how to pull that up through the inner bones, like through the center of your arms, how to pull it up through the inner arms, out each shoulder blade in each pose.
Can you demonstrate? I see that a lot. I see a lot of this, especially and just in downward facing dog.
Tyler.
To get that space out.
Here's a Tyler tool for you.
So one thing I found was my wrists were awfully uncomfortable in this posture because they're one of the smallest joints, and you're putting your whole body weight on top of them typically. And a lot of times you'll see this. This is just mine. It's just dark. Let's say darkness in their hands and wrists.
Darkness.
That's what it is. They're not lit up. They're not bright. They're not aware. So what I would say typically to get into this is come onto your finger pads like Spider-Man hands or tree frog hands.
Beginners, put your knees down.
Beginners. If it's too much weight, knees down is fine. But automatically now we're firing up. This is creating incredible heat and light up along all the muscles of the fingers, palms, wrists, and forearms. All that is lighting up now. Super good for strengthening the palms, wrists, creating awareness into the palms and wrists. Super good for supporting over time to fight carpal tunnel syndrome and so forth. Anyway, so from here, you're going to start to slide your fingers slowly apart until your knuckles come to the floor, keeping the pad of your palm lifted. So now we're feeling an equal weight across fingertips and knuckles, and then softly allow your pads to come to the floor. Last, which keeps that conscious weight off of your wrists, where we have a tendency to dump into wrists. This is supporting and protecting wrists as well as strengthening and lighting up the energy along your palms and forearms.
I can't get there by just putting my hands down and firing them. It's really interesting. But now, because you're pressing down into the bones of the hands and the inner arches of the hands are really lifting, continue through the deep core line of the arms. So lift the center of your forearms up towards the shoulders, lift the inner arms up towards the armpits, and then roll that out the front of each shoulder like a Y. So it's like you're pulling the arches up through the inner arms and then out each shoulder like a Y. That's going to connect with the rest of the pose. So once we do some other stuff in downward facing dog, you've got these drawn in beautiful open arms, and you've got this decompressed spine moving through the arms now, and the armpits, and you can send the heels as low as you want without losing it. Right?
But to me, the beauty of this is like all yoga postures. We start with a template, a format, a basic pose from which the other postures can flower. In this way, we're creating the potential of building towards hand balancing with integrity and strength, so that long term you're creating health and preservation.
So how much do we say, bend your knees and put your hands on the floor in crow pose? And we're not doing our students a service by not saying, okay, like more mindfulness to this foundation, which is going to be holding you. Then we're dealing with all these wrist issues and stuff, and shoulder stuff, and whatever, people that aren't getting stronger in the classes. Well, part of that is our responsibility to do things like that, and to not feel, I mean, what is a flow? Does it mean we have to do one breath every movement? Absolutely not. You can absolutely flow and pulse while you flow. Really get your hands down and stuff. Note to yourself, students don't want to just move every second until they die and then Shavasana. There needs to be some white space. There needs to be some time to catch the breath, some time to process what they've just done. So what we will usually do is we flow in teaching. We flow when we're teaching, we flow when we're teaching, and then we do something. Either it's, hey, come down, let's work on this for a minute, keep breathing. Feel your hands on the earth. So we're always in this pulsation, or we do a pose, or maybe a stretch, more of a stretch within, and then we come back up into it and do something else. Otherwise, it's very aggro. It starts to get people too young, too fire, too do. Instead of this idea of like, we can flow slow, and it's actually harder.
And more essential if you can, like they say, you can flow slow, you can flow fast. If you can do a posture, if you move into it softly, then you can easily do it faster. And that's so important, I think, to when we understand, though, that what we're offering you guys here is that this is a conscious structuring. It's basically that. It's conscious structuring rather than just going, because that's what you think they want. You're creating this class that you basically know that they need, right? So you have this concept, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take into consideration all that I know about anatomy, all that I know about physiology, all that I know about the students in this class, the levels they're at, even all that I know about behavioral psychology, etc. You take all that into consideration, then you move within that context as best you can to give them something, but you're leading the class. That's important. Rather than formatting something that, is that okay with you guys? Is that too much?
Oh, is that fun enough for you? Does that
Right.
entertain you?
Is that the way it's
Do you feel happy and
done because other
comfortable?
teachers did it that way? Right?
Yeah.
Rather, we're giving you something and we're going to take care of you. I'm not going to leave you dry. I'm not going to throw you out to the wind, but I'm going to challenge you. That's my job. I'm here, and so like I might start you slowly, like, yeah, I know this, and then kick them into something suddenly, and then like, what? But you're showing them that you're in control of the situation, and then you can take them back, and then you have their attention for when you do have something you want to break down and look at more in detail. You know, this is about formatting where you create that structure.
So yeah, exactly. So what structure do we have now? We have the fact that when you build a pose, you want to build it in 3 parts: foundation. So foundation is whatever is meeting the earth, how quality with which it is pressing down. You bend first. You surrender to it, but maximize the press and ground of whatever hands, feet, sit bones, whatever's down. So you just surrender, bend in, press the thing that's down, and then you begin to roll up from that foundation toward the core of your core body. So core is next. Core of your core body, which you have a core body, but you have a core of your core, which is the pelvis and the lumbar spine. Deep to the spine. The more deep you can go towards the spine, the more efficient the movement's going to be, the more effective and safe it's going to be. So we're thinking now about pressing hands down, drawing up through the arms, the inner arms out the shoulders. Pressing feet down, drawing up through the arches, the inner thighs, up and out the sitting bones. That's the direction of the deep core meridian, one aspect of it. So inner thighs up and out each sitting bone like a Y. Okay, arches of the hands up the inner arms like inner thighs and out each front shoulder like a Y. So it's a little bit different how so it's out the front shoulder like a Y, out the back sit bones like a Y. And then we take over core of the core. Top pelvic crest in and up. Front spine in and up. Roll in and up. Draw the front pelvis in. Roll it up. Just saying that gets them to do it. Low belly in and up. That's okay when you're doing that movement. Next, last, is sacrum in and up. Sacrum and lumbar from the back in and up. You don't want to do that first or it will predominate what we already do, which is a compression in the low back and sacrum, and then it's harder to get the psoas and the front spine activated against it. So we just press down with whatever's down, draw up through the inner limbs, roll up, drawing the front of the pelvis and spine in and up. Once that hits the heart, draw the sacrum in and up. Let's say the arms are up, really important to bend the arms like this as you roll up. This is because when we are in the womb, we are built first in internal rotation, then the shoulder joints are set in place, and then we externally rotate. So to this day, if we externally rotate to lift the arms up, we crunch the shoulder joints. It's inorganic. Plus, doing this allows the rest of the deep core line to connect to the deep core line of the arms instead of outer body taking over. So we roll up, you bend the elbows, you unfurl, you slide the shoulders or armpits back as you lift. So they're in place. Reach up. As you get your students in class more, you don't have to go through all that. Press the feet down, roll up, unfurl the arms. They already know kind of how to do it because you've done it enough different ways. And then you start just really flowing, and then maybe you can address something if you see it in class and say, okay guys, now we're just going to take a moment to work on that roll up because I see a lot of people still arching up. You want to do this, show it, do it a few times. Great, okay, moving on, flow for a while. I just look at her every time I see flow, but that's just what I do.
Just in regards to teaching, like I teach at a few different schools, and there's different approaches, different cues at each school, and then there's different students are going to all different schools because they like flavour and they want to go and get some other stuff. And so then you're teaching this and other people teaching this, and you know, like, so they get confused. They look at you and they're like, what are you talking about?
Some say this, you know. Some say this, so who's right?
Yeah. And I tend to talk to, how do you feel? Like, how does that feel for you? And
your body
go back to that. Do that over there, that's fine. But here, let's do this or whatever.
But see, the why, teachers. The why is so important. Don't just make them do stuff. Tell them why they're doing it. What benefit are they getting from this movement? Do not flow so fast that you make them think that what you're doing is just your personal, like, woohoo thing. Tell them how important it is. Tell them why you're offering this. When you roll up, you are stimulating your inner body energy, your inner body muscles. You're getting more results from every pose you do in here.
And safer.
And safer, and you're going to create more heat, more digestive fire, more detox. Like, not just this work that we're doing, but anything that you're doing. Now let's come into pigeon pose. We're going to do a really long hold. Okay, ready, go. Why? What's the long hold doing? It's opening more flexibility for you. It's giving you more access to your energy. It's going to teach you how to endure discomfort so that you can maintain your integrity in an argument with your boyfriend. I don't know what you want to say, but the why is consistently bringing that in will draw students to you and keep them there because they know that you're there in service, not only of your wisdom, but of their learning and growth.
And that's, again, creating a format where you're showing them that they can trust you. On all levels, so that you know what you're doing, and that you are conscious about the way you're moving them, because that's their body. You know, you have to be conscientious of that. You're moving them, so that is very good to give them not only the reasons, but also the meaning behind the whole thing. Meaning not only on a physical level, but also beyond that, energetic and so on.
And context, because we've done it a couple different ways in here, very quickly, right? Lift it up. Now, next time you go back to a class that's like lift your arms out and up, you're going to feel the difference. Your body will remember that, and so when they come to your class, and you can show them the difference too, you can talk about that outer body way of moving and how it's not as effective anatomically and energetically in a lot of ways, and then show them the difference in class, and then when they go back up to whatever class, they will know how they feel because you have explained to them why they're in this and what you're giving them and how important and awesome it is and whatever. So the more you can say that, the better, you know. So we've learned to structure foundation core expression from the inner body upward, from the ground up, from the inner body meridian outward, and to structure transitionally from a pose into the other pose. This is all sequencing, right? It's all vinyasa, it's all the flow. One pose does not go to the next pose without a major wave and instruction in between. Check that out in your own practice and see what happens, okay? Then the structure for a class, because I want to get to that with you, the structure for a whole class. There are variations on this, of course. I'm taking some from classical structure in Krishnamacharya. I'm taking some from Tyler and I, how we've kind of new generationed out our structure. But for me, a great class, a next level class that I want to return to again and again, has some main elements, and one of them is a theme. A theme. Yeah. Within that theme, so it's a philosophical theme. It's not for the physical body yet. It's for some of the other bodies. It's for the mental body and the wisdom body. It's for your energy. Right? It's just for you to take in on different levels.
So we can talk about
Yes.
So when we're talking about core body and expressing out from the core body, and you begin to get more towards the esoteric elements involved with that, you can look at the koshas, which some of you may know about, but basically we have the 5 koshas, which are the 5 onion layers of our being. And I find that this is a very vital concept, and I think for me very active in my practice and my teaching. What I've found typically is that we as human beings in society, and generally therefore as yoga teachers, tend to overemphasize the first and second levels of this being, which are the outermost physical sheath, otherwise known as the food layer, the Annamaya kosha. So basically the 5 layers of the Annamaya kosha, which is the food sheath, the Pranamaya kosha, energy level, the Manamaya kosha, which is mind or emotional, the Jnanamaya, which is the intellect or wisdom discriminating, and the Anandamaya, which is the bliss sheath. So all these layers make up who we are. And as we begin to go towards creative classes, or when we're teaching a lot, we tend to just focus on the outermost layer, which is very important, which is what we pretty much talked about this whole time, is understanding the anatomy, understanding what the anatomy does. What is the anatomy and how is it structured? And then how to move it is we begin to get towards the energy level. How do you move that matter in such a way that it is harmonious for your body as well as your energy, in a way that isn't creating kinks and crumps and you know, lots of little bits and pieces that are missing, rather than having a holistic, energetic movement as well.
And can I say something about the koshas? They seem classical, and they are, because this is a different language and a different time that came up with this. But when you think about it, you have a physical body. You have bones and muscles. You can feel it. It's obvious. You have the pranamaya. You have the breath. We have the breath. We intake oxygen and we put out oxygen, right? Our life force in breathing. We have the mental body. We have our mind. We know that. We have the wisdom body. So we think and then we know. And that's our discernment. That's our maybe our core truth as humans, like what your personal truth is. And then we go deeper into that bliss body, which could be energetic, could be spiritual, your spirit, your universal truth, your universal nature. So it's kind of obvious to anyone who practices yoga or lives in a human body that we have various aspects to ourselves, and that's really what this is. They all infuse each other, of course, and they all interconnect and communicate. So what you believe can translate into emotional distress or mental or physical tension.
I'm going to contend that in fact what you experience on the outermost layer is almost always a manifestation of your inner layers. That is your belief system, your mind, the way that you're configured, your inner body. So even though, yeah, this is classical and this is kind of esoteric, you have to, like everything, try for yourself. It's yoga. That's what yoga is. Does this make sense to me? I'm not telling you this because it was taught to me. I'm telling you because I feel it intuitively and it makes sense to me intuitively. This does fit with my understanding of life and all that I've experienced. So let's just say as that. Now, if that is the case, and if this is something that we can get on board with, then you begin to have these access to an understanding that this is the main core of our creative sequencing or our way of teaching, is by accessing these layers. And our yoga practice gets you into that. So why do we do yoga in the first place? Why do we do these physical postures? Is it so that we get a nice butt? Sure. Is that the main reason? Is that what drew you here? Is that why you're here? No, clearly. And that's not what keeps drawing people back, because they know that they have access to deeper levels through their practice. And I believe this is something we worked through last night. Something really interesting, I think, is when you're doing your physical practice, particularly, I love doing challenging practices because it's fun, it feels good. But also, it feels good mainly because I'm challenging my body with a task and my mind with a task, a challenging task, with which it can stay focused and grind on it. Working on the pose, working on the pose, working on the movements, doing these things consciously. But as my body and mind continue to work on these things, they get tired, they get worn out. And in the process, you begin to get kind of a porousness of these levels. So I have less focus out here because this layer is it's using up all its energetic forms, the physical, the energetic. And I have the opportunity for those deeper, more subtle energies to shine through. And that's where the joy from your practice comes from, those inexplicable moments in Shavasana where you're just like, what the hell, how is this so good? Because you've opened up all those pores and you've allowed yourself, your mind, and your awareness to come through in both directions, both inward and outward.
I would say, yeah, I had one of those moments last night in class. You did a great job of moving us, and the heat was there, and it was nice to just be like wrung out. And I really worked myself hard, and that I was done. And in Shavasana, I could feel my spirit just rising up and filling me. And I opened my eyes, and he was like, you look beautiful right now. All sweaty and makeup off and whatever. And he's like, what? And he saw my eyes, and because my spirit could come back out my eyes, because it's so easy to develop knots, restrictions, tensions, all in every sheath, except for the bliss sheath, of course. It just wants to shine. It's like, why are you blocking me from shining, right? Like, you cannot block your bliss body with your stories and your BS and your mental tension and your physical tension and whatever's going on. So Krishnamacharya was the one that said, yoga is a practice of seeking the obstacles to your bliss and removing them, dissolving them. So the thing is, as teachers, we can look at these different layers and speak to our students on a physical layer. Where are your obstacles? Help breathe through, move them. Where are your obstacles to muscle? Where are your obstacles to breath? Where are your obstacles to strength and flexibility? Where are your obstacles to knowing yourself? Where are your mental obstacles? When you can address those and help them do the work it takes to unravel and dissolve them, then what he's saying can occur.
Right, and this is about doing your own practice. So ultimately, right, whether it means your home practice or, as I often like to do with other teachers, I go to good teachers that I love that are really creative and inspired themselves. That allows me to trust them to get to the place where I understand that relationship of teacher-student better. And I also understand myself better because I'm just doing the work. I'm doing the work and they're helping me to work through that. So I think that's a huge part of finding creative sequence for yourself. And then also you get to experience for yourself and explore these layers, and if in fact they are real for you, how then can you speak to your own, so look at your own blockages that you've come up against, whether internal or external. Both, I believe, expressions of the same thing. External problems are expressions of internal blockages. So then you can speak to, oh, how were you outside class? What problems do you have with your relationships and so forth? That's really the mind level, generally emotional mind level. What problems are you having with your making decisions and choices and your goals and fulfillment? That's more Buddhi intellect and deeper levels. What about love? All those, and when you have these experiences, which you can bring fresh to class because they're things that you have that you're working on, and you can say, this is my theme today because this is what I'm working on. That can be that's so fresh, that's so new and exciting because it's real, it's instant, it's instantaneous. It's not something I took out of a book. It's not something that I've got the 3 things that I've been working on since teacher training. It's something that's right new for me. And then that is what people resonate with. They want to know what's real and new in this moment so that they can have their own fresh experience.
So for me, the theme, right, is something that will help you speak to those other layers. We're not in the physical layer yet. So other than physical, what could that theme be? Pick a knot, any knot. What could a resistance place be? Maybe something that you've gone through or that you have found helpful when, whatever challenge arose for you and that you found that yoga practice or philosophy really helped you with that. Or a way to get back into practice or whatever it is. So let's say we do a class called Clean the Basement, where you're going into your root, the storage, your belly pelvis area, where we store a lot of tension, a lot of fear, a lot of stress. And we're going in there to clean it out. Because we don't want to exist there with a knot in our belly that's not going to support us or help us be more vital and alive. So we'll say, the theme is always, okay, we're going to go clean the basement. What's in your basement? People will say, oh, fear and shame and guilt and all the dark, heavy stuff. Okay, so how are we going to remove those obstacles today? We can do it through remembering that first and foremost, our intention in practice can always be to refunctionalize our core relationship, to keep our inner flame bright, to keep ourselves nourished, to love ourselves up. This is what we need space for, so we got to go in there and make space. Okay, a theme like that. Then we move on and say, here's how we're going to do it physically today. Here's how we're going to experience the idea that we've just put forth. In reality, we're going to actually move it into practice, and here's how. So I find when a theme aligns with the physical movement, it's very powerful. Now not only are you just moving them, or you're just reading something from the sutras at the beginning of class and then again at the end of class, and not correlating it, right? But you're giving them more of a whole body, whole mind, whole spirit experience.
Right. Because ultimately all of our experience is in here, right? You know that all your emotions, all your fears, all your problems and everything, all those frustrations are experienced not out here, not on the mat, but in your body. It's actually in your body. And so when you communicate to that, you're speaking to the area that we can all work from. So making those correlations. So you have a theme. That theme, you just may have to meditate with it for a while, contemplate it, walk around. At some point you're going to see how that has connection to your own physical experience, and then how you can creatively begin to draw it into, well, that feels like tightness, that frustration feels like tightness in my thighs or something, in my hip flexors.
Or I have tight hip flexors, and where's it really coming from?
Right, well, that's intuiting, going into that and feeling it, and like what comes up to you. So either direction, like say you go into the problem in your body, like This thing, my shoulders, what is that? Well, shoulders hold me up. They're an expression of my power, my strength. So am I having difficulty claiming that strength? Am I having difficulty, moving with awareness and strength and fluidity at the same time?
Am I carrying too heavy a load for everyone else in my life?
So this is, you begin to make those creative connections, which then can feed a really interesting theme for a class.
And have them, like, if there's, what do we store here? What do we store here? Where do you get restrictions? Belly, mind, whatever. And then talk to that, and then let's move it into a theme. Let me give you, since we're here till just 3:30, let me give you more of the structure before we'll answer questions. So we've got a theme. Speaking to other bodies than the physical only is really powerful. And you can just look at what inspires you that day. You might have read a poem that was amazing to you, or saw a billboard on the side of the road, or you just went through something and you became victorious, or you're really in that deep thought and that deep process and you're sharing them. You're not TMIing them, you're not dumping your problems all over them, but you're saying, I'm really focusing on this challenge that's arisen for me, and I want to share it with you because, we are a community, we're a tribe, we're moving through this together, and here's the tool that I found to be really, really useful. Here's the thought for today, for today's class. Use it however you can in your own life when challenges arise in your practice, which they will. You're going to have challenges in your practice on this mat tonight, so why don't you try to bring your mind towards this and practice this tonight? Great. Now we move them through the sequence. So for me, the sequence is built in a few parts. You've got the theme in the beginning. And then I jump right into the center of class, or like 2/3 in really, and I put in the pinnacle pose. I call it the core pose. Something that really exemplifies the theme of the day. Doesn't have to be the hardest pose you've ever come up with in your life. If you have a gentler beginner's class, could be a longer hold in a pose. And what you think that long hold is isn't what their long hold is. So what you're going to say is, I want you to be in this pose for 5 more breaths than you think you can. For example, unless it's a handstand, don't mess, but let's say it's a forward fold. When your mind tells you to leave, you're going to take 5 more breaths, because that's true transformation. Your mind will want you to get out of there way before your learning is done, usually. So whatever it is, could be something more challenging for the body. Could be something that, like a wheel, you're working up to it really, really well that class. You're going to have a really great wheel today. It's like a wheel opener, turbo wheel. Okay, so then you've got that core pose. You can start doing Kriya. There are multiple meanings to Kriya, K-R-I-Y-A, but in this case it means stairways, or building blocks. So Kriya, stairway up to the core pose, and then down from the core pose. The steps up to the core pose, the mini sequences that build towards that pose, will have similar elements to that pose, to prepare the body for it. The Kriya downward will have the opposite, so that you can counterpose that pose and bring them out, and neutralizing poses as well, because the opposite of that pose will just fire the opposite body muscles. So eventually you want to end with neutralizers, which are the best we can do to try to just, happy baby, and then God to stretch that out, and then twist to stretch that out, and then those ending sequences that you often see are very intelligent, because they're doing the best they can to undo the body from everything before you rest in Shavasana, which is very hard to do. So, ultimately we rest in Shavasana. Threading your theme all the way through is a lost art. When you're getting the physical movement, now you're in your mind and your body, your mind physical kosha, and you're just there, like put your foot here, and so don't overwhelm yourself by trying to go too fast. Remember to put the theme in while they're holding the pose sometimes, and say, don't tell them a story about Krishna in their Warrior 2, it's too much, They're trying to deal with intensity, but just remind them of the theme of the day. And say, this may be a great opportunity for you to breathe back down into that belly and not lock up. Remember that belly tension we're working on today on all levels. Okay, self-relationship is primary, so don't lose that in favor of expressing a pose.
Yeah, and that also brings another great thematic thread, of course, is the chakras, and the qualities of the chakras, and the resonance with the various aspects of your body. So say you are working on something like core, then you can always work core relationship expression, creativity, etc. And you can thread those through as well. The qualities of the chakras are extremely fertile for your creative usage as well, in whatever way you want to.
So he said something really great last night. I was trying to find it for you. He said, we are not teaching physical bodies only, we're teaching spiritual beings. Speak to that place. Help them reintegrate spiritually, and they will heal and clear or accept in peace the other body's reality. Right? The physical stuff. Some people have physical limitations and they're just resisting it and stressing them out, or life perspective limitations, and it's causing them anxiety. But if you can speak to that spiritual oneness, that spiritual wellspring, if you can remind them of how much they have inside to work with and all the possibility they hold for healing and peace and freedom, even though they're always going to feel challenges and intensity, we're not going to just stop feeling that because we practice yoga long enough. We're going to feel more because now we're open to it all. We're inviting sensation and experience. The path of the wounded warrior, right? Because it's easy to sting us, but then we're here in service of our integrity. So we feel a lot and we still walk our path.
The path of the wounded warrior is the choice, the spiritual path, and the choice to stand firm and stand clear and vulnerable to all the slings and arrows of life that it has to offer. Typically, when we get hurt, which happens, we either recoil and protect ourselves, or we react and attack. That's very human. It's very animal, really. It's very ego. It's the way the animal ego is made to do. It's made to go for what it wants and run away from what it's scared of, or attack that thing. So when you begin to walk this path, you begin to find that stillness in the most challenging situations, which can often be your class and the way the students are. But also when we talk about what she was saying, a lot of times students will come to you with ailments, which they do because you are a person with knowledge and you can help them, and you need to know that. It's important that you know that. You're not a doctor, but you have knowledge. You can help them. And a lot of times I'll feel like, yeah, I've had this thing for 18 years and it's still just always there, always. I'm like, 18 years, huh? You know? Yeah. Let's think about that. The body, 7-year-old, so the body completely reconstitutes itself for every cell, hair, and square inch of your body every 7 years. You are a completely new body every 7 years. So if you still have the same thing after more than a few years, let's take a look at energetically. Right, because you are most likely energetically, mentally recreating that thing.
And here, can I tell about the sacrum real quick? This actually happens. Okay, so I had a horrible SI pain a couple of weeks ago, and 3 weeks, for about 3 weeks. It was so bad. I could not move. My pelvis was retroverted like this. I was like, what is going on? It would not open up. If I tried to do that, it felt horrible. It would spasm. I tried all my tools. I tried everything I knew. I was still moving through my anatomy body. I was okay, fine. And it was I was almost immobilized. He saw me. I was just like, okay. And then it would open up a little bit and start walking. And he sat with me one day and he said, what do you think that's about? And I could have been like, oh, I'm just, maybe I heard it in yoga. I need to go get shots. I need medication. I need to go get spinal fusion. I need to go to the doctor, to the thing, that surgery, obviously, whatever, because it was really bad. And I sat with myself and really reflected on that, and I said, you know what? I still have something to take care of with my ex, and he's pulling me back. It's second chakra, it's relationships. I'm getting pulled backward through my second chakra to this thing. I still have a connection to this person that I need to dissolve, and I haven't been doing it because I felt guilty. I was worried about what he thought, or what he would do, and I'm a loving person, so I don't want to, just be a jerk, or be perceived as that. But I really haven't cut this cord yet, and now I'm feeling it. Now my body is reminding me that I've got something left to do. So I said, can you help me figure out how best to take care of this and give me some perspective? Yes, I took care of it, and within 2 or 3 days, that pain was completely gone, and I did nothing different to make that happen. It was just functionalized again.
In that instance, she intuited the connection between this fear, this understanding, this memory, this thought, and her body. And then when she went, she did the scary thing. She did the thing which her body was scared to death of. Her body was like, no, 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 no. Let's avoid that. Let's put that off. Let's not even think about that for a while. She finally did it, and then it cleared. Because she took you can see the connection of spirit and body. So what I would want to come to with that, and I think this is something that we as yoga practitioners, I think it's something, it's really quite solid and valuable, particularly as these students come to us with their ailments, that everything, every ailment, every issue that you have is physical, mental, and spiritual. It is all three of those combined. And all three of those need to be addressed. Sometimes it's just physical. Sometimes it's just the muscles worn out and needs to rest. Sometimes it's just mental. It's just you have this thing that you've been focusing on, you won't let it go, some fear. And sometimes it is spiritual. There's karmic stuff involved that needs to be worked through. But when you address all three, or at least open the possibility of it being all three for yourself, then I think you have potential to have maximum healing and help for those students.
Because the deeper, you want to look at the source of this instead of just the outcome manifestation. So when you're teaching your yoga class, bring a theme in there that's directly targeting this and then thread it through, like a sutra. So remind yourself, even if you have to write it on your notepad and just be like, theme. So you go, okay, warrior 2, now if you're feeling a lot of intense sensation here, how are you going to deal with it? By hardening, like we talked about in the beginning of class, by softening too much and just going passive, or by being strong at center in the breath, Sthira Sukha. Whatever your theme is, there's a million of them. So that's how you can amp creativity right away. So like, what am I actually interested in saying? Then trusting yourself enough to say it in your voice, not the voice of your teacher, not the voice of that you think a yoga person should have. Please, please, if there's anybody in here who talks like this and then in class goes, now come to you, you know, and then after class you're like, hey, what's up, good job. Who are you? You know, why do you have to turn into something you're not for them to think you're spiritual? You know you're spiritual, everybody's spiritual. Just be yourself. It's very freeing.
There's a difference between changing personalities and amping up the person that you are and making it bigger so the people in the back can hear you, you know, it's so mean. But, you know, not changing personalities. But that's also relates to this concept of, I mean, these are just some great don'ts. Mimicry in general. Yes, it's great to learn from the teachers and from the great teachers out there, and a lot of, you know, really amazing sequencing that you can pick up, and you should steal it. Steal great sequences. Go to people's classes. Do it. That's awesome. That's awesome. You should.
They'll be seeing like Waterfall Warrior and stuff, and they'll be like, that's hers. It is now.
Right. That's awesome. That is a compliment.
I love it. I'm like, somebody
you are awesome so much that I'm going to do what you're doing.
Yeah, but in your own way, in your own voice. The way that we express our sequences and express our cueing is not the way that you have to do it. There's not just one way to talk about this deep core body line or anything. Actually, you just make up your own languaging based on what vibes with you.
That's right.
So when you're sequencing this kriya up to your core pose and from your core pose, think about where you're going. Because the primary, the floor warm up or however, I usually start with a floor breathing, right? I get them in their breath before anything. I don't teach the breath while I'm moving them, I teach them the breath first. Because that needs to be extracted and understood before you can constitute other movement around it. Otherwise they won't be able to keep doing this while this whole thing gets involved, right? So we sit and we breathe.
Besides, excuse me, but I think the breath is definitely one of the most important and highly disregarded parts of most yoga classes. There's like, yeah, breathe. You know how to do that, right?
Deep Ujjayi breath through the throat. It's not coming from up here only. This is in service of what you're doing in the whole inner body. There's so much more.
Focus them up here and into the whatever 20% of their lungs. What about the full belly breath, the full yogic breath that is potential? People don't know how to do that. Just get them into their breath, because that does form the solid basis of their whole practice. It is deeper to their core than their physical.
And it's a transition from outer to inner, so that you're not just taking them into more movement. They just came out of a lot of walking and doing and thinking. Now you're going to have to do more stuff and think about that. Just get them into the breath and soothe that central nervous system. And start them off practicing with more calm. Even if you're doing strong posture, that's very helpful. And then we in the breath, I may do it differently, like theme before that, and then breath, and then the om. Or I might do breath, and then while they're breathing, the theme, and then the om. Or the Om and but the breath, theme, Om. Something's going to happen in the beginning of the pose. And since we're on the ground, I don't start them up standing usually. Sometimes I do, but generally we're here, so we start with some kind of warm up of the spine and the core, the outer body, inner body too, so that we're going to be able to go into some other movement. We do some floor stuff into dog pose, and then start the sun salutations. Right? So introduction / breath / Om intention setting theme. Floor warm-up, earthy warm-up. Core sun salutations. So the sun salutations and that floor warm-up, any movement contains a seed of what you're going towards. So let's say I'm going towards a big twisting posture. We're going to try that super adventure pose. You know, I call that core pose a super adventure pose sometimes too. Where we're twisting and then I was at the back of the mat balancing my twist. Now, not everyone can do that, here's the thing. But most people can go from this twist to this, which is on the way to that thing. So again, when you teach them transitionally in integrity, inhale up, exhale, begin to spin back. Now maybe lift that bottom knee up. Maybe start to lift the foot up and turn back. Maybe if you can, put your hands on the mat behind you. Breathe. Anywhere along the way your body restricts you, that's your knot. That's where you breathe and that's your pose.
That's your practice.
Then if you can do that, if you can go farther, if you can go farther, blah, blah, blah. Until you hit the end point of the pose, and that's for everyone and probably more, you know. So if I'm going to start with a floor warm-up, it's not just going to be just this today. It's going to, you know, it's going to be something with a twist, just a little twist. Something with a little twist, because I'm just getting the body prepared, right? Some kind of fun, I don't know what, just twisting elements. Bless you. The core warm-up, the sun salutations will have maybe more of a twisting element, maybe a lunge with a little tap twist or something. What it's not going to have is a super twist bind with a straight leg, you know, and all that. You want to seduce the body towards what you're working them, and don't be afraid to repeat. Repeat and deepen, repeat and deepen, repeat and deepen. You only have one class with them. Do not throw every pose you know or think that you want to do, and oh God, we haven't done a wheel or chaturanga.
Repetition is magic.
Repetition is magic. Every pose does not have to be a twist, but it's nice if in every block of sequencing you do a twist. Because the body is listening and learning and deepening. And then warrior salutations, where there's more warriors, some arm balances, something a little bit more kind of strength-based there. That's going to have a bit deeper twisting posture or preparation somehow. And then I go into a rest, like a stretch out, because of white space moment, and then I usually take them back up to the pinnacle pose after that. Yeah, it's just a little bit of like, so you know if you're in the pigeon, you're like, oh shit.
So that's her
Better enjoy it. But that pigeon is deep, baby, because they don't want to be up. They don't want to know what's next. So I'm like, oh, I'm resting. I know it's my rest.
So that's her style. That's very much that's a stylistic choice, but it follows the same basic concept, which is we're following the structure of take the steps, don't jump, skip steps. You know, what do short people do? They're gonna have to they're gonna get left behind if you take, you know, skip steps. They're gonna be looking up there like, I can't make it. If you do the steps incrementally, consciously, thoughtfully, intelligently, then you can allow people to come towards the pose and offer them things that they never tried before because they know they're safe. They know that you've given them the basic rundown and you give them the option to back out without any judgment, without any kind of like, that's not the pose. That is the pose. You're doing the posture, and make that very clear as well. So that we have that balance. But then you can decide how fast you move, how slow you move, and what waves, what is your meta speed. But for example, you like to go, and then rest, and then go. That's cool.
Pulse. I like to pulse.
Yeah.
I go. I say, hey, let's just check this out for a second. Then I go a little more, and then I say, hey, rest it out, no big deal. And I'm like, let's do this. And I'm like, you know. And then it goes down to their shavasana. But here's, for example, a class we just taught, the personal revolution, turning inside to express yourself outside. So you don't just you don't just express yourself. That's why you don't just express yourself out and lose your center. You draw and nourish, and then you give what you can. You draw and nourish, give what you can. So we were talking about as a twisting class, the revolution, right? So a couple of things, I asked them a couple questions. Maintaining your center and self-relationship while relating to others. That was the theme. We talked about that with people. AKA, how can you make your core relationship more magically delicious? Your heart offers organically. It opens more when you do that. That's a natural outcome. And then we have stay connected to your core while you twist. So here's the physical. Sun salutation with twists. Breakdown twisting lunge. Heart open warriors, where I know we're going to kind of do more of a twist open for the other part of the heart. Twist, chair twist into side crow, that takes it a little bit deeper. Anjaneyasana into bow flow, because we added back bends into this. And then we had Anjaneyasana twist. We had a pinnacle pose in there of the seated twist to the arm balance. And then afterward we have shoulder openers, because we did a lot of this stuff, so now we want to open the shoulders a little bit more on all sides. We want to do the, oh yeah, handstand scorpion was my pinnacle. We didn't do it though. So we did bridge, wheel, and then we did floor stuff, twist it out, let it go. I mean, so we have these kind of seed elements. This is just our basic structure, but within this we still played. We gave ourselves some freedom to, I knew what poses we really wanted to get to. They grew. Here's a little baby twist, here's a lunge twist, here's a warrior open twist, here's a twist chair with a side crow, here's the seated twist to the arm balance, here's how to undo that on the way down, 3 more poses I want to get to. And then within that you can play all you want. So you see my Kriya up, my pose, my Kriya down, theme weaving all the way through, so every twist, we talked about it again.
To me, what's important about understanding, like we all understand that's really craft. And we're talking about how everything's an art. All these postures, all these sequencings are art and science. Crafts are great, but are they art? Well, it's debatable. I think craft typically is someone who learns how to do a certain thing in a certain way, and they just do that every time just the same, because it's impressive. Wow, that boat looks real. You draw that sunset really wonderfully every time. It's awesome. And I'm sure people around the world, if you can, will like it, but your students who keep going to your class, they're going to get bored. You're going to get bored. And so then you're like, well, okay, theme. And then you say theme in the beginning and you do the same thing you always do. We all have habits. It's normal. It's just the way it works. What I think is really good about when you're more conscious about the way you're teaching is when you bring a vulnerability to your class. To me, that is an expression of quality presence. Quality presence is offering them your truth in this moment, as best it is, as clear as you can from this moment, from whatever we're dealing with, my personal knots, or whatever my theme is, which is personally important to me, that I'm going to give to you. That's personally important to me, so that's information that you could just be like, you're an idiot. You know, you could hurt me. This is my stuff, I'm opening up to you, right? Whatever that is, I'm opening and I'm being vulnerable in that space. I'm being vulnerable because I don't know if what I'm telling you is going to turn out properly. I don't know if this class is going to run quite as smoothly as I like, but I'm going to be in that moment and I'm going to try new things in each class. Try to thread it in, and even more so in a way that may flop, it may not work, and I may get lost or may mess up. But that's okay, because I know that I'm giving as much as I can, and I know that that's what's most important to me and the students.
Yeah, so you can have a structure in mind that works for you, and you can modify that any way you want. But the real thing that attracts people to your classes more and more is authenticity. Unless you want them to be attracted because they think you're the guru and you're perfect, and they're attracted to that because they think they need something outside of themselves. If you want to spend a lot of time around those types of people, then become that guru, and you're going to have that as a community. But if you want people who are attracted to and support your authenticity because they want to be real, this is how I live, and this is my tribe that I've attracted, and I can tell you it's much more satisfying to me to have a tribe of like-minded people rather than people who think I'm something I'm not. So it's to your benefit to, within whatever structure you choose, to step forward and be the source of that attraction, which is that you're here and you're here to really offer from your heart and your soul, and you have a theme every day, and you have some poses that kind of make sense, and they build and grow, and then you neutralize the body from them so people can feel good, and you're speaking on different levels. This is the structure and the creativity that it takes, I think, to become one of the most amazing teachers out there. Because you're the most amazing you can be. Right here in the teacher's seat and out there in your life. So now you're going to practice. Which
of course is also dropping any sense of competition or comparison. Which is hard because there's a lot of teachers, and we all are teachers, and there's other teachers, and he does it better than me. No, it's not like that. It's you being authentically you. And in that way, the more authentic you are, the more you'll draw those people who resonate. That's faith. You have to have a faith in that. You have to have a basic belief that I am worthy of that. I am worthy of when I express my truth, that's going to bring more people to me than if I express someone else's truth more, not clearly, but people seem to like them, so maybe they'll like me if I do it like they do.
Yeah. Or you're hiding in some way. I mean, are you playing the music that you want to listen to during your yoga class? When you practice at home, is your music different than the music you play in class? Okay, maybe not.
It depends.
What?
It depends.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, maybe you're not going to
I
Eminem.
music in like a chair yoga class that when I practice it.
Right, of course. But what would you listen to during a chair yoga class? What kind of stuff? Because the music that you have in your room is going to light you up as a teacher when you love to hear it. Right? The thing that you bring in as an inspiration that's actually inspiring to you and exciting for you today, and a little bit like, wow, I'm really going to go there, with my vulnerability, and I'm going to say some stuff. That's speaking your truth. That's exciting. Now you're living instead of just showing up and phoning in some class. When you can do that as Tyler said, nobody else, then you start to attract your tribe. And you'll also have people come to you that just can't, they hate it. They do not like it, and they're going to tell you exactly what they think of it and how you should change it so that they'll be happy with the class. And you're going to have to be strong and say, hey, is there something here I could look at? Is it authentic to me to shift that? Or am I really happy being me? Is this me? Then that's a great teaching for them because they get the opportunity to be repelled from your class to go find the teacher that's right for them. That's very important for you to hold your ground so that people don't all glom onto you and not find their proper path.
And that's not in a reactive way, again, being if you do choose that path in the Wounded Warrior, it's to accept the pain of the fact that they don't like your class. And that's okay. And you know what? I still like you. I still respect you as a person. That's awesome. And I hope you find someone that you do like. So I'm going to keep teaching my way, and you can come if you want, or you don't have to. It doesn't bother. I can accept that pain, and I can keep walking because cool, that means that I am different. I'm not the same. And I am doing my own thing, so thank you for reaffirming that for me.
Yeah. So if you want more creative ideas, finding your voice stuff, we both have a lot of stuff. I'm gonna take, if you want the notes from this, because we have it all written down for you, plus more, much more. Then go ahead, you can type it in here at the end. But basically, I have 250 videos on YouTube that she can attest to are pretty creative because I just don't listen to anyone else. I do what I want.
Yeah, it gets to the point where it's like, I've got the same video coming up. Like, I've seen them all. You know what I mean?
Well, watch this, because now we're doing more based on the anatomical body. I save it a lot for classes. I haven't talked too much about it on YouTube, but and Tyler has his Black Swan Yoga TV. You'll get the link for that, so you can see a ton. We are creating stuff together for you to watch, free and otherwise, but otherwise is like $9, for 60 minutes of awesomeness. But you can look and research online. I mean, this girl goes onto YouTube all the time. She's probably one of the most creative teachers in town. I bet people know her as a creative teacher because she researches and she studies. That's her science. She studies in order to create that art of being creative and everything. You can also do your home practice where you never let yourself do a pose next that you've done before from that pose. So if you go into Ardha Chandrasana, don't let yourself do another pose out of it that you've done before. Ask yourself, what else could you move? How else could you move? That's one of my best tools. That's how I get all these interesting sequences. Some things totally don't work, but you'll quickly find that out when you get stuck in a little ball on the floor. Like Twister, but otherwise, you would be surprised. Warrior 2. Okay, I'm not going to go reverse warrior. I've done that before. I'm not going to do anything I've done before. So what haven't I done? I thought about that last night in service of you guys because I've done warrior 2 and everything, I thought. So I'm like, warrior 2. This is what I think about before I fall asleep. Okay, so I'm going to go warrior 2. Lift the back foot from warrior 2. Grab the toe. Take it up. Okay. Open it up. Tree pose. Bend in, core line, grab the ankle, balance. Reach down for the floor of the block, open it up, Ardha Chandrasana, bound. From here, I haven't thought this one through, but but you're gonna see it in action, right? From here, oh my gosh, I'm gonna keep, wait a minute, I've done handstand from that before, but I'm gonna keep that bent. I'm gonna plant the hands down, step or hop back, downward facing dog, and rock star it. That's what I'm gonna do. Right? Then I'm gonna rest in child's pose because that's freaking hard. But that's just, you don't have to use that sequence, but the fact is it breaks you out of your box really, really quickly.
That's how my brain works. Like, that's how I make shit up.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, and then put it into your sequences and see if they make sense. Bring it back to an intelligent sequencing. Otherwise, you're just like, try this. Maybe your class is like, we're just going to go free form today and just see how you feel in it. See if you can find your breath in this free form. See if you can find your center in the free form. Throw any old pose you want in there, but you know, it's nice when the body gets prepared for something and it has a little bit of that structure within the play. But this is how to find these cool stuff. You would be surprised what you know.
In my style, and this is up to you, but I think it's totally legit to make at least 10-15% of your class experimental. It should be, so that you can keep learning, even in class. Some teachers would say that's ixnay. But I think it's important because then you have that edge of like, I don't know if it's going to work, but you have more in it. You feel that palpitation, that expectation, that excitement.
Today.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to sing a mantra to them today. I made an experimental in the other class. I couldn't remember the heart mantra, so I Googled it while they were in Shavasana. And I was like, and then I know it, but I didn't. So I was like, Om Gum Ganapate Namaha, Om Gum Ganapate Namaha. That's the Ganesha mantra, because I don't remember the heart one anymore. Whatever. And I'm Om Om. That's experiment. That's putting yourself out there. I'm freaking. I want to have a good time.
I love your Guns N' Roses mantra. We did that one time.
Oh,
remember that one?
The Bon Jovi?
Yeah, Bon Jovi.
So maybe, right, like take it, it doesn't, yoga is only what the culture knew and found at the time, the yoga philosophy, so bring in our culture. Use it for the good of your students. We're going to end today, and of course you'll get the notes, but it's 3:30 now, so thanks for bearing with the massive download. Now, I hope we can come back, and when we do, we can break this down more, teach sequencing, cueing, all that stuff to teachers, have some more teachers workshops, finding your message, finding your voice, your core message, why you're here, what you're here to say, what all this can revolve around. That's a whole workshop. So
Teacher training maybe next time.
Yes, I would love it, absolutely. So let's end with one of my creative acquisitions. So just go ahead and interlace your hands. Bring them to your heart center. You'll probably know this mantra. We'll sing it 3 times through, rock it out. Just try to follow along as you can. Receive it. Especially if you're not a singer, sing anyway. Then you can be a singer. And then we'll sing an Om at the end. So through the nose, take a deep breath down to the belly. Oh, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hands, we'll make it, I swear. Whoa, living on a prayer. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hands, we'll make it, I swear. Tell me if that's not spiritual. Nice when we get everybody else in class to hold hands too. So, I mean, we give what we can in a short period of time, and I hope that you got at least some seeds or some sparks that you can use. please send us get your email up here if you want the notes, and that will give you ways to stay in touch and all those links to help yourself get even more creative. And thank you. I'm just so honored. Thanks again for
Thank you. Thank you.